Homeowners criminals are targeting your equity, so you need to check your home's title right now. Just use promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts, and if fraud should happen, they will spend up to $1 million to fix it. So please go to HomeTitleLock.com, use promo code BILL today. On this Thursday, as you know, the United States is undergoing profound change with Republicans in charge of the federal government. Some new policies are good, others questionable. But what is absolutely fascinating is that the Democratic Party opposes just about all change. The nation cannot sustain a $37 trillion debt. Everybody knows that. Spending cuts have to be made, or the American economy will collapse. Therefore, some programs and personnel will have to be diminished. People will lose jobs. But every time there's a layoff or a closed program, the wailing begins. Oh, it's not fair. People will starve. Planes will crash. It's Armageddon. Now, my simple question to those people who are wailing is this: what would you do to get federal spending under control? Rarely an answer. President Biden's solution was more taxes, fair share, as he went about bankrupting the country. The truth is that far too much tax money is wasted by corrupt bureaucrats, and that is anything but fair. So let's do something about it. Okay, people? Back after this. President Trump signed a new executive order to lower prices on prescription drugs, as you know. But change takes time. So All Family Pharmacy is offering 20% off all meds now through June 30th. A great deal. No insurance needed, plus prescriptions and delivery are included. Just choose from more than 200 medications like ivermectin and more. Please visit allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use the code BILL20 for 20% off today. allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, code BILL20. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 of an inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
What's happening today? Here's your first dose of the news you need to know. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
I saw an interesting article the other day, and I saw it because Mark Levin retweeted it, and it was basically who are the most likely successors to Donald Trump on the Republican side. So who should be running for president in 2028? And I thought to myself, is it irresponsible and reckless to be talking about the 2028 race already? And the answer is, yeah, it probably is. So we're going to do that a little bit later on today. Hey, let me know what you think. Who do you want to see start gearing up to run for president in 2028? We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Hey, good morning. I'm Mike. Man, Thursday already. Boy, this week's gone by fast. That's the joy of a 4-day work week. On Wednesday's program, we chatted with State Senator Rick Brattin. And of course, as you know, Governor Keogh calling that special session. Lawmakers are going back to work on Monday. And where do we go from here? Well, we got a preview of all of that and his reaction to the Missouri Supreme Court's ruling that was surprisingly pro-life, at least for now. Here's how that discussion went. I got to tell you, I was caught a little by surprise with the Missouri Supreme Court's ruling regarding the Jackson County ruling in Amendment 3 and abortion. And so essentially the pro-life laws that you and Nick Schroer and some others crafted, at least temporarily, are back in place just in the absence of that other ruling. I don't think that's the final word by any means, but what's your understanding of where we are when it comes to trying to keep Missouri as pro-life as possible?
Well, I think I'm shocked too, but I'm very optimistic that the Attorney General, with Senate Bill 22, Nick Schroer added an amendment to give the Attorney General the capability to appeal, and that's why we're where we're at today. But if you look at Amendment 3 and the way that it was crafted and the way that it removed all these stringent requirements for safety for women, I think that is the real crux of why they're ruling the way that they're ruling. And we had the hearing on HGR 73 that's going to go to the vote of the people to kind of to repeal Amendment 3. But during that hearing, it was quite obvious that we were able to really press in that people had no idea what they were voting on and just how dangerous Amendment 3 really is to women and their health. And I think from a Supreme Court and a jurist point of view, I think it's quite clear. And that's where I do feel that there's a potential for Amendment 3 to be basically struck down on the fact that people had no idea what they were really voting on. And I hope that's how it continues to play out. But man, praise God that this was able to be the Supreme Court ruled the way they did, and babies' lives are being saved right now as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really accuse the Missouri Supreme Court of being a bastion of conservatism by any stretch of the imagination. But at this point, essentially, as I understand it, we're sending this back to the same court that made the reckless ruling in the first place, which was based on the reckless Amendment 3 on there. So are we looking at another round of hearings and court cases at that level, and then probably up to the Supreme Court level? And I'll just tell you what my follow-up question is can we somehow make this go slow enough to maybe keep the state pro-life until voters can decide for sure with the repeal and replace vote?
Well, in talking with the Attorney General, his office, they felt very confident as they plow forward with this, that they have a great standing and a great capability to continue on with this. So I feel that we do have that capability to slow roll this out to where people can hopefully remedy this completely and entirely. But until then, hopefully we're able to remain a pro-life state until that occurs. But it's man, you're exactly right. I did not see this from a less than conservative Supreme Court. But I think also a lot of it is, with Senate Bill 22, we removed their capability to rewrite all this stuff, which was all granted statutorily anyways. So I think they're potentially maybe seeing the writing on the wall that hey, maybe they're going to start really pushing back on us. And the more we rule as extreme as we have, the more it becomes popular to stick it to the judiciary. So maybe that's playing into these rulings as well, too.
Okay, so now let's talk some legislative stuff. As expected, the governor makes the call for the special session. You're headed back into the office on Monday. How closely related is that $500 million or whatever the final number is going to be of state-backed construction money and jockeying for those votes to get the Chiefs and the Royals their stadium funds as well? I know technically they're separate issues, but I've been around long enough, Rick, to know that if you're an absolute no vote, that might put into jeopardy your ability to get some of that construction funding in your district.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear that with all that construction money, that it's a potential way to get people to sit down, especially the Democrats after they're coming off of 2 PQs. We have the majority of Democrats are receiving the bulk majority of these funds. I mean, the the Democrats that are probably the most vocal are the ones that are going to be getting the most amount of money. But with the conservatives, I mean, we're kind of like, what the heck, giveaways to millionaires and billionaires and sports teams that have ample money to pay for their own crap, and then paying off Democrats. It's like, no, I mean, we've got to give people their money back, and that's what we're trying to negotiate now is, hey, if you're going to give all this stuff, throw the whole kitchen sink at this, well, then the taxpayers by and large need some sort of relief. That I know in my area, we just received a 15% increase in our property evaluation that's going to result in property taxes going up, and then we're talking about these giveaways to sports teams. It just really falls on deaf ears, in my opinion, to people. And that's what we're trying to negotiate now, because the governor can adjust the call to hopefully we're able to get some broad-based tax relief on top of this, to where, hey, I can hold my nose, potentially vote no on all this stuff. And maybe if we're able to get a big conservative win on this, great. But I think if we don't, it's going to be problematic on seeing all this stuff through.
We're visiting with State Senator Rick Brattin. Okay, so then the bigger question, for instance, the governor was on the show a week or two ago making the case essentially for the economic development argument. Nobody wants to be in office when the Chiefs and the Royals, cut ties and go across to Kansas. Their actual economic impact, I don't think, is as big as what a lot of people think it is, just based on multiple studies. But what's the right role of government, particularly the state government, when it comes to these big ticket items? Because essentially right now, major league sports teams, pro sports teams, appear to act like they think they've got the state government over the barrel and we're just an ATM for them.
Well, that's exactly what they think, and that's not the proper role of government. The role of government is to protect people, make sure they're safe, make sure that all industry has the capability to succeed or fail beyond their wildest dreams. It's not to pick winners and losers, and that's what this is doing. And to me, this is all but a level of extortion that, hey, you either give us money or we're going to pick up our toys and we're going to leave. For me, I don't like bullies, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. If that's how you want to be. I would agree with you on the economic benefit. I just paying $60 to park, $20 for a hot dog, to have a bunch of people cussing and spilling beer on you all the time. It's not, to me, isn't always the biggest the biggest economic driver. I know everybody wants a shiny new stadium and all this development, but it shouldn't be at the hands and at the cost and expense of the taxpayer. It should be them investing this in their own dang stadiums and stuff.
Okay, so the way that I understand the proposal, and like I said, we're talking to the governor, he's arguing it's not just the state handing him a check for hundreds of millions of dollars to build a new stadium or to do the upgrades at Arrowhead or whatever it is. He's saying essentially the state would be backing the bonds, or basically funding the bond money, the seed money for that, and then the teams would not have to pay taxes to the state. That money then could go pay off the bond. So the state still is taking a loss as far as the tax revenue one way or the other, but the state would essentially be guaranteeing the bonds.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the Missouri Works program, if you're familiar with how that worked, to where they get to keep the revenues of the taxes they would pay. But at the end of the day, does the ordinary taxpayer that has to barely put food on their table, do they get a rebate for the money that they're sending to the state? I think it's a terrible precedent to continue to set, because then all these other businesses start seeing, they can extort the state, that but for your tax dollars or us keeping our tax payments, we're going to leave. We're going to go across the state line. I mean, it's a terrible precedent to continue to allow this sort of behavior from whether it's big business or from sports teams. I think it's just terrible precedent to set.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from there. I just think it's terrible.
And it's interesting, the bedfellows that are being made here, Senator, because you've got the Kansas City Star, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, both writing editorials saying the Show Me Institute's right about this, and you don't see those bedfellows very often.
The end must be near.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things I think that we all feel that sense of, right and wrong. I mean, the Hunt family, they've done a lot in the Kansas City area and Jackson County area, but they're billionaires. They're one of the top richest, ownership groups in all of the NFL. The group that owns the Kansas City Royals, they're not exactly short on money. There's just a justice issue, but then there's the issue of saying, but we don't want to lose this part of the identity of a community in the state of Missouri. And Missouri, I think, has maybe lost more big league teams over the last century than any other state in the union. But we've survived when the Kings left, or we survived, when the A's left. And so I think we'll survive if the Royals and the Royals decide to not be grateful for the city that supported them all these years.
Well, that's my biggest thing is these guys, I mean, like the Chiefs, man, we were diehard Chiefs fans and they sucked for how many decades and we stood behind them. We filled their stadiums when they lost all the time, kind of like with the Royals as well. And now all of a sudden you get a winning team for a few seasons and all of a sudden you're going to start, putting a gun against the taxpayers to start paying for your stadiums. If you're wanting us to be loyal fans, show us some loyalty as well, that you're willing to invest in your own stadiums, that you're making boatloads of money on.
All right, the number 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Ready for instant curb appeal that comes with a 25-year transferable warranty? Call Rhino Shield today. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, aluminum, steel, cedar, and more. Over the past 20 years, we've done thousands of homes, businesses, churches, schools, condos, parking garages, large metal buildings, and strip malls, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks. We do flat and sloped metal roofs to extend their lives too. Proud to be veteran-owned and manufactured in the good old USA. So we're tariff-free. We're exceeding expectations every day. Evaluations are free. A+ rated with the BBB and a lot of 5-star Google reviews. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You know, that song just every time just fires me up. I love that's why it's my song. It's my thing.
Because it kickstarts your heart?
That's right. That's right. And you know, in my, like, I have a baseball game tonight. I will play this song on the way to the park just to get me like fired up. I'm just saying that's like the people who know me the most think of me when they hear this song.
I can absolutely imagine you sitting in your car, waiting for the game to start, just headbanging, rocking out with this full blast, but the windows are up, so it's kind of muffled.
Yep. That's precisely what you're going to see when that happens. All right. Elon is on the way out, and he seems frustrated with the establishment.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard some of his comments. It does not seem like he's enthused or thrilled about this.
I think that what happens is when somebody has a big picture, we'll get into this a little more in a second, and they've got a passion for it, and he's an entrepreneur and one of the most successful in human history. And I think sometimes people like that who have great success, they get really frustrated when they say, here's the solution, let's do it. And then other people just don't do it. And it's the people who said we're going to do it who don't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. I'm curious what people think about that. Also, by the way, are most or maybe all of President Trump's, so-called Liberation Day tariffs, are they just off the table right now? We've got the report for you at 6:05. Another court has ruled. It's not one court. It's a panel of judges, and it is a federal court. Basically said all of those tariffs exceeded his authority. So basically, his leverage gone?
Wow,
completely. I mean, like literally around the world economically. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. That's going to be happening in our national news segments coming up here in about 7 minutes or so. It is 5:53 right now. By the way, the National Guard called to St. Louis. I'll have a few more details for you in the news dump here in just a little bit, but basically they're concentrating on North City, obviously. And so they're not here for security. They're not here for anything like that. They're here essentially to provide a lot of, can I still say manpower? Am I allowed to say that still?
Them power.
Yeah. In fatigues. So they're here to essentially bring in that heavy equipment that they have and do that. So it's going to be a big help. I'm sure. I don't even know that the National Guard was completely necessary for something like this, but they're going to be a tremendous asset for North City.
Well, isn't it pretty typical though for something, once there's like a large spread disaster or something of that nature for National Guard to come in, at least it helps to keep the peace.
It does. Yeah. But like, for instance, they were in for Joplin all those years ago. But a large part of that was security. Okay. And then they also, brought in medics, and then they brought in, that sort of thing. We don't have as big of a security thing this time around. Thank goodness. Now there are looters, there are thieves. They're having minor problems with that. Not as much as I thought they were, or we would. But yeah, so the Guard's just going to be here for a couple of weeks. And a lot of it is cleanup and being able to haul stuff off in ways that are going to help, because otherwise, guess what? Neighborhoods, you still got to pay people to do it. At this point, that's going to save a lot of money. Hassle. Yeah. And they have the expertise on doing stuff like that. All right. Real quick here. And I want to get into this a little bit more in depth later on today. Elon Musk, his time as a consultant for President Trump and D.O.G.E and all of that was supposed to come to an end anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, that by design, that was a temporary thing.
Yeah, we knew that way before the elections even happened.
Right.
If Musk was on board with all of this, then it was going to be a here's a set plan, here's an exit date, get in, get out.
Honestly, that was one of the things I really kind of liked about present tense about the D.O.G.E project, is to say, we're going to show you that a big government operation can start, accomplish something, and then go away to sunset and go away. I think that's a good precedent and a good example. And the starting and the going away are going to happen. Whether or not anything's accomplished is what's up for debate, because it doesn't look like it. And, Elon Musk is, it looks to me like, that interview that I've seen with him and some of the comments, he's very disappointed because D.O.G.E has come up with hundreds of billions of dollars identifying waste and fraud and abuse, and the Republican-led Congress isn't enacting and doing anything about it.
Yep.
The so-called big, beautiful bill does not incorporate the D.O.G.E cuts. you would have to have somebody file a bill to say, here are all the spending things that need to be eliminated and then voted on, but they're not doing it.
Unfortunately, that is correct.
Right. So I think Musk is very frustrated. He and Donald Trump, I think, are probably still pals, but it looks like they're not as bosom buddies as they were before. I don't know that there's a bunch of drama. I think Elon Musk is like, screw this. I'm going back to the private sector where I'm going to make bazillions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, for everything that he's gone through, the reputational hit with people saying, keep your hands off my Social Security,
Right,
to
yeah.
people literally trying to force the stock price of Tesla, which is how he makes a lot of his money.
Sure.
To just the headache of going through and spending all that time doing all that,
Mm-hmm.
to then just have it be your own side, not follow through on what they
Yeah.
hired you to do. I would be very disappointed.
I think sometimes, Elon Musk is a world leader. You don't have to be a politician to be a world leader. And he just ran into how powerful that establishment and that swamp is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think just happened.
Hey, folks, Jamie Allman here for Newstedter's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous bull of a watch. WowDiamonds.com.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option, it's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
We are kicking off June with a very special series dedicated to home ownership and the home build process. So tune in this Sunday. We've got special guest Jim Brennan with McKelvey Homes talking about the quality and craftsmanship they've been building right here in the St. Louis area since 1898. Check it out right here on NewsTalkSTL Sunday morning, 9 a.m. or on SerenityWealthNowRadio.com.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
That blocks the Trump tariffs.
The court found that the White House had overstepped its authority. That was the Court of International Trade, finding that the White House doesn't have the power and that this power to extend these tariffs lies exclusively with Congress. Now, this was all about the utilization of this emergency law. And we did see the White House appealing within minutes. We have a statement from them saying it's not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency, and that President Trump pledged to put America first, and the administration is committed to using every lever of executive power to address this crisis and restore American greatness.
The BBC's Katie Silver. For Elon Musk, the time has come. He's stepping down as head of DOGE, the Trump Department of Government Efficiency. Thanking the president, Musk says work of DOGE will go on as he once again takes the helm of his sprawling business empire. A new analysis of Medicaid waste and fraud and the impact of President Trump's budget and tax cut bill.
The analysis comes at a crucial point on Capitol Hill, with the Senate about to debate President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act that the House of Representatives approved May 22nd on a 215 to 214 vote. Democrats claim the bill requires slashing Medicaid spending by more than $800 billion, and that millions of recipients will lose their benefits as a result. But the new analysis also provides substantial evidence to support Speaker Mike Johnson's insistence that eliminating waste and fraud in the program and restoring genuine work requirements will not mean reductions in care for anybody who is genuinely eligible for Medicaid. Bernie Bennett reporting.
The American flag flies once again outside the long-shuttered ambassador's residence in Damascus, a sign of strengthening ties between Washington and the new Syrian government. Watching Wall Street this morning, Dow futures up 233 points, NASDAQ futures 354 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hey, it's Mike Rohn. If I have a choice, I like to do business with companies that actually stand for something. That's why I switched from Verizon to Pure Talk. No offense to Verizon, I'm sure they stand for something. I just don't know what it is. Pure Talk, on the other hand, is a veteran-owned company that supports our military in a big way, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I also appreciate unlimited talk and text and plenty of data for half the cost of the big guys, and I do like being on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month, but what I really appreciate is no contract, no cancellation fees, and Pure Talk's commitment to handle all their customer service in this country. I saw it for myself. I went to Georgia. I got a tour of their headquarters. I met their CEO, and I talked to the same customer service folks that you'll talk to when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Switch today and save 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say keyword micro. Pure Talk, a wireless company that actually stands for something.
President Trump confirms that he urged Israel to refrain from striking Iran while nuclear talks continue.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
To our brave police officers and first responders, we say thank you for risking your lives to protect us. To all the incredible volunteers who've joined hands with the David Dorn Foundation to raise funds for equipment and services, we extend our heartfelt gratitude. We stand strong with our volunteers who give their time, talent, and dedication as a shield of support for those who rush into danger. The David Dorn Foundation gives a big thank you from our heart to yours. Visit dornfoundation.com and join as a volunteer.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Hey guys, I don't know about you, but I love learning about national and international issues here on News Talk STL. But do you know what's going on in your neck of the woods, your city, your county, and its politics? If you live in Jefferson County and want to know more about what's happening locally, join Speaker Tim Jones and me, Councilman Billy Crow, as we dive into all things Jefferson County on Sundays at high noon on Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL.
We talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
101.9 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
They're buying it.
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
Watch your proper squat, son.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! This is your cousin God.
All right, are President Trump's tariffs suddenly off the table?
Could be a big deal here.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Also, the National Guard has arrived in the city. I'll tell you what's going on with that. And okay, so just because I like stirring up trouble sometimes, Republicans, conservatives, which are not always the same thing, but there's a lot of overlap, thank goodness. MAGA movement supporters, which again, not always the same thing as the other two, but
build the Venn diagram.
Yeah, there's overlap in the Venn diagram. Here's my question for you. I'm putting it out right now. Who's next? Mark Levin put out a retweet the other day about an article about Who should the Republicans be looking at in 2028? And I thought, well, that's really irresponsible to be talking about that this early. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
Well, what's funny is we've actually had this conversation about the Democrats for a while. It's like, oh, well, who's actually on the Democrat bench? And we laugh at them.
Yes. But we're going to laugh at one in particular because one of them's doing a precursor thing now.
Right. Exactly. So then, yeah, this is an interesting perspective coming from the, on our side. He's like, hey, Trump's out after this one. Let's
He's not getting his third
He's
term.
not getting his
It
third
ain't
term.
happening. So I'm just telling you, I'm planting the seed right now. You can start sending us maybe a note on social media, send us a comment on Facebook or in the Rumble chat box, or send us a quick voicemail on the app and send that in and say who you think Republicans should be kind of priming for that race. And then we'll touch on it here in a little bit, but I'm thinking in the 7:00 hour, let's really dive into it. I really want to know who people are looking at right now. All right, 6:07 right now. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by Common Sense Rentals. The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, President Trump's tariff policy. We're talking about the so-called Liberation Day tariffs get a massive legal setback. Where do we go from here? Where does he go from here? Here's the story.
A federal trade court has blocked the president from imposing sweeping tariffs on imports under an emergency powers law. The White House has argued that trade deficits amount to a national emergency. The ruling from a 3-judge panel at the New York-based Court of International Trade came after several lawsuits argued Donald Trump has exceeded his authority. The Trump administration has filed an appeal. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Okay, so the couple things to keep in mind. One, this is not just one district court. This is a federal court with apparently that jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. So it's not a jurisdictional issue this time. But it still comes down to the question is this a matter of the judiciary trying to run the executive policy, or did the executive, the president in this case, exceed his authority?
Well, there's been discussion about this, even coming out of Republican members of Congress saying, hey, wait a second, the power of the purse belongs to Congress. So that should include the imposition of tariffs, which are essentially taxes, right? So So it's interesting that we landed here.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see how this kind of all pans out. There was some discussion about legislation being drafted to specifically to formalize the idea that tariffs belong to Congress. So I'm curious how this is going to pan out, even if there's some wrangling back and forth in the judiciary about it.
Yeah, and eventually this is probably something else that's going to end up before the Supreme Court, because this is a very specific constitutional powers type of question as well here. All right. Vice President J.D. Vance was delivering remarks at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Vegas this week. This happened last night. The vice president telling those in attendance that he's excited for the future of cryptocurrency, emphasizing that we've got what he's calling a once in a generation opportunity to bring innovation into the country via cryptocurrency.
If we fail to create regulatory clarity now, we risk chasing this $3 trillion industry offshore in search of a friendlier jurisdiction, and President Trump is going to fight to make sure that does not happen.
All right.
I'm going to be the first to tell you, I've admitted over years, I don't understand cryptocurrency. I am a supporter of an alternative currency. Just because I don't understand it, that doesn't mean I'm against it. I'm not. But it's interesting because crypto originally was kind of, this is how we're going to stay underground, and government, keep your paws off of this, to we need a government regulatory system that is clear and concise so it can thrive above board.
You're not a big crypto guy?
I'm not against it. I just don't really understand it.
In that case, I've got some NFTs I want to pitch to you after the show.
Okay. It sounds like a great deal. Explain them what they are to me. Here's my wallet. Take my money. Oh God.
Oh boy. Producer Jerome, NFTs coming.
It's funny. When NFTs were like a thing for a split second.
These are
These are like the pictures and stuff, right? I won't name who it was, who the young person was. I'm not even going to give away who it was just because that he's an offspring of my wife, who was all excited about this and wanted to start getting into it. And,
Right.
and I said, okay, well, what are those?
Right.
And it's like, well, they're like art pieces and stuff, and you can buy and sell and trade digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended the conversation asking a very sincere question.
Very simple question.
I said, so what's going to stop me from taking a screenshot and having the picture anyway?
Yeah.
We tried this with digital baseball cards years and years ago. It didn't work.
It failed miserably.
Oh,
That's what happened. Yeah, it's not the same as actually having the Mona Lisa and then making prints of the Mona Lisa. It actually doesn't work the same way.
Exactly. All right. The National Guard has arrived in North City. 41 Guard members are on a 2-week deployment. Their focus is going to be setting up and operating debris collection sites. The Guard is also going to operate the transport process, so taking the debris away from the affected neighborhoods. The current plan is for the project to last through June 11th. So the debris removal had to happen, and what was going to happen is either the city or the neighborhoods or something like that. They were going to have to contract with private movers. This is going to save, frankly, probably a lot of time and money. I don't know that the National Guard was physically necessary, but it's going to be a massive help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, any extra hands I think are going to be helpful in this season, because what's happening and what's going to continue to happen is the story's going to fade into memory, and even though the need is going to remain, and therefore the help is going to start drying up, it's good to kind of get ahead of that with the National Guard.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really start rebuilding until all of the trees and all of the bricks and all of the roofing shingles are out of the way. You got to get that stuff out of the way before you can rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is it the Show Me Institute's elevator is still someplace?
Yeah, they're still, I don't know if they're looking for it or not, but as last I heard, they still haven't found it.
Yeah, so there's some 2,000 pound, 10 foot by so-and-so box someplace.
Yeah, if you see that box, that is not Doctor Who that's about to walk out. It's the Show Me Institute's elevator.
Right.
That's so bizarre.
That stuff's got to be cleared.
Because I have ridden on that elevator thousands of times when I worked there, and now God knows where it is. Okay, the House Oversight Committee is preparing subpoenas for several members of the former Biden administration. They are investigating former President Joe Biden's use of the auto pen, and they are, of course, alleging the accusation is that a group of aides basically took advantage of the former president's declining mental state. House Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer, Republican out of Kentucky, but you probably knew that, was on Fox's Hannity last night. And he says the former president, the former commander-in-chief, didn't even sign his final actions in office.
There was more activity in the last 100 days of the Biden administration than the first 3.5 years of the Biden administration.
Oh, yeah. So former White House physician Kevin O'Connor also among those being called to testify. The House is expected to hear testimony between Monday and June 25th. This could be big.
This is actually a very, very big deal. The idea that the president, the person who had been elected president was not actually doing any of the jobs that the president is required of the president, and somebody, we don't know who, was. Right. That's crazy. That's a constitutional level. That's treasonous level discussions that we're having here.
This could be absolutely massive. All right, the Cardinals win another series, this time over the Orioles in Baltimore. Final score there was 6-4. Brendan Donovan put the Redbirds ahead in the 5th inning with a 2-run home run. That proved to be the 2 winning runs that they needed. The Redbirds have a travel day today, so no game, but they start a series with the Rangers in Texas on Friday.
Inspiration, you have a soul so dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. Mike Ferguson, Gabe Pfeiffer. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Before you blow us all away. Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Lucas here for the Village Bar in the heart of De Pere. Since 1948, the Village Bar has been the go-to destination for delicious food, cold drinks, and unbeatable atmosphere. Savor their famous wings, burgers, and onion rings, or grab a drink from their fully stocked bar. Catch all the big games and enjoy the company of their friendly staff. Plus, don't miss the 1879 Distillery, a one-of-a-kind experience right next door. The Village Bar offers the best value in town. Find the Village Bar on Facebook and come experience where history meets great times. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
We're all up here at beautiful Berry Hill Golf Course. Congressman Eric Burleson just stopped by.
It's a beautiful day.
It is.
Absolute course. I don't play golf.
There you go.
Anytime that I was not in the Missouri House or Senate, I was in a cubicle. I just never had 4 hours to go play golf. I'll go sit in a deer stand or go stalk turkeys. And call them.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Springtime often means storms. Don't let a fallen tree ruin your day. Call Hanson's Tree. Look them up at hansonstree.com. Hanson's, your expert insured tree care specialist in the St. Louis region and well beyond. In addition to taking care of all the messes, they can take care of beautiful things as well. Organic mulch, tree trimming, grinding, and land clearing, green waste recycling. Let the expert arborist at Hanson's take care of all the tree care for your home or business. 24/7 at hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I didn't have this on my bingo card, this particular Striper song from my high school era.
Okay, yeah. So when I was going through the Striper list, and mind you, I've only know Striper from you.
That's right, yeah.
I was not expecting this one to sound like this either. So.
Okay, so
start previewing them a little
here's
better.
what happened before you were born in the 80s with rock bands. Okay, so they had to have their big hit off their album, whatever the album was. And this, I think, was off the In God We Trust album, I think. So you had the rockin' song.
Yeah.
And then you had to follow up with a ballad that was sweet and sugary and you know, slow dance and couple skate.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be a couple skate song at the local roller rink.
Right.
Roller rinks were these places where we
that's
would,
right. Yeah.
we would gather to roller skate. A roller skate is where instead of in one line the wheels are
there were four
of them, kind of like a
Those of us with gray hair have to expect. No. So this was like this is always what they did. Almost every band did it. It was like the formula that they did. So.
And well, they call them power ballads though, because at some point when the drums have to kick in hard and then they get into the crunchy guitars and
which happens
obviously, and then you have a guitar solo with them.
Right. So anyway, it's also to prove that like they actually can sing. That's one of the things they had to do. See you, listen.
See?
There you go. There's Michael's prime Michael Sweet. All right, it is 6:20 right now. Okay, so I just put this question out on Rumble, guys. Who should conservatives be looking to for the 2028 presidential race? I'm mentioning that now because I want to know who you think should be next in line. You know, if not outright conservative, I mean, you know, who should maybe then the MAGA movement look to, or just the GOP in general. So I'm putting the call out for who you want to see, that we can incorporate that in a little bit later on.
Let's talk about our bench here.
That's right. All right. News Talk STL's video stream. That's one thing that we were kind of, brainstorming and thinking here at the station, and we can be your morning TV show. If you got a smart TV, you can find the Rumble app, and you can find that, you can put whatever, YouTube, you can find any of those. and just put us on in the mornings, and we'll smile at you and wave like I'm doing right now.
Hey, guys.
All right, and then just turn us on the radio when you head to work. By the way, real quick note here: Spartacus is writing a book.
Oh, Spartacus!
Spartacus is writing a book.
Yes.
Senator Cory Booker.
Speaking of people with presidential aspirations,
yes, Cory Booker is writing a book, and apparently it's going to be based on his marathon speech that he did a couple of months ago that absolutely nobody paid attention
It
to.
is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Well, and the thing it counts as the longest. Does it actually count as the longest filibuster?
It was the longest one, yeah.
Or the longest filibuster or longest speech?
I think it was the longest filibuster, and it surpassed who was it? Was it Strom Thurmond? One of those guys.
Yeah, one of the Dixiecrat types.
right.
Yeah, speaking against desegregation.
Right.
So another Democrat.
Yeah.
But by the way, how do you filibuster no legislation?
Yeah.
That's my question. Is like, does it count as a filibuster if you're just talking?
Yeah.
Randomly.
I mean, there was something on the table, but the book is going to be called Stand, and so it's going to hit the shelves later this year.
He took a stand.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I am Spartacus.
Oh God. Which tells you, like Gabe was just saying, which tells you he's running for president.
Absolutely running for president.
Because this is one of those things, is that if you're going to run for president, a year or two before, you need a book and do a book tour and do the media tour so you can do the humble brag tour. And Republicans do it and Democrats do it. Everybody does it. And I got to tell you, I'm generally a sucker for those books. I am a sucker for the ghost-written, humble brag pre-campaign books. I don't know why. It's a guilty pleasure. It's like my 80s glam rock. I'm a sucker for those books. And I know what they are. I don't think that they're more than they are, but I'm still a sucker for them.
Man, he's such a caricature of the worst sort of traits that you can imagine in a politician. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's self-important. He's not as smart as he thinks he is. And he has these delusions of grandeur that express themselves in official ways. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What is this? I mean, it very much is the Hollywood for ugly people sort of moments that he exemplifies to a T.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's going to be fun to watch. All right. This isn't necessarily a news thing, but this is so crazy right here. Okay. So, kind of a presidential quirk, historical quirk has finally come to an end this week.
Presidential quirk.
Okay.
Okay.
John Tyler was our 10th president.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So he served from 1841 to 1848. And everybody stick with me. This is nuts.
Okay.
Okay. This is really interesting. He was the president. He was the first vice president to become president upon the death, because William Henry Harrison died like 2 or 3 weeks into his presidential term.
Right.
And at that point, there was no official line of succession. So people are like, well,
what do you do now?
I guess you're the president.
Yeah, I guess
he wasn't even sure that he was supposed to be president at that point. At that point, they're like, well, do we elect a new president and the vice president? I mean, so they didn't really know. They had to come up with a line of succession after that. So John Tyler, 10th president of the United States, born in 1790.
Wow.
His grandson.
Wait. Just
grandson died this week.
Holy crap.
Follow along now. Here's how this happened.
What?
I am not making this up. So up until Sunday night, our 10th president born in 1790 had a living grandson.
That's great. How?
Okay,
you have to explain that to me.
I'm so glad you asked.
My math ain't mathing right now.
I am telling you, this is fascinating to me.
Okay.
So John Tyler, like I said, March 29th, 1790 he died in January of 1862.
Okay.
All right. So after President Tyler's first wife died of a stroke, he remarried. His 13th child between the two wives was named Lyon, Lyon. So Lyon was born in 1853 when John Tyler was in his 60s.
Oh, okay. I guess that's one way to do.
This is the pattern.
That's okay.
Okay, so Lyon Tyler also had a couple of wives. One died, and he had several children, including Harrison Tyler, who was born in 1928 when Lyon Tyler was in his 70s.
Okay.
So,
I get it now.
All, to the deceased Lyon Tyler, way to go, dude.
Man, gosh.
Look at you go.
Potent.
Yeah. No kidding. I'm like, I'm not saying I want to be like him when I grew up, but I kind of want to be like him when I grew up. I'm just saying.
Gosh.
All right. So Lion Tyler, John Tyler's son, was in his 70s when he sired a son in 1928.
Wow. Okay. So that makes sense. Okay. So somebody born in 1928, I get it.
So Harrison Tyler, the grandson, died Sunday at the age of 96.
Okay. All right. Now, did he have a son at like 80?
I don't know.
Like, what's happening?
I don't know.
I was gonna say that puts a whole new spin on dying of a stroke.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I was gonna say you have to give it.
You got to do that. Yeah. But if you think about it, one of the ways is this. I just saw a TV story that says the loop trolley after the tornado. Loop trolley returns to normal operation. And the video is of an empty loop. Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah, that's
okay,
pretty normal.
So back to this. But you think about this. This shows you how like small our lifetimes are in history.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. My grandfather on my dad's side was born in 1924. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He died in 2009. But he was born in 1924. And at one point it dawned on me, when my grandfather was born, there were still people who fought in the Civil War still alive.
Yeah.
When my grandfather, whom I spent all kinds of time with growing up, and he died when my kids knew my grandfather.
Right.
And so my kids had a relationship with my grandparents who were born at a time that Civil War veterans were still alive.
It's really wild.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the 10th, Donald Trump is the 45th and 47th president.
Right.
The 10th president, his grandson just died a few days ago.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So America's been around for just shy of 250 right now.
Yeah.
And that's basically the blink of an eye in history.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm 53, so I've been alive for 20% of our country's history.
Wow.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Wow. I'm pretty much there with you too. Crap. Why'd you make me think about that, Mike?
It's not that we're old. It's that our country is actually very young.
Yeah.
Historically speaking.
Yeah.
Nationalize it however you want.
He's like, you gray.
I'm a young, vibrant man.
I'm a young, vibrant man. But if you think about it, I mean, Donald Trump's 80.
Yeah.
So he's been around for almost 40% of our country's history.
Wow.
I mean, that's how young this experiment is.
That's crazy.
Man. All right. I'm already getting a few comments here, at least on Rumble. I don't know about Facebook. Gabe's watching Facebook and Twitter and all that, but I'm just putting out the question is who do you want to see run in 2028? And I came up with this because I saw on X, I still want to say Twitter, Mark Levin retweeted somebody else's story on who are the likely contenders, who should succeed Donald Trump. And of course, he made a comment, I'm never going to support anybody who, isn't constitutional, whatever Mark Levin said. And I thought, wow, we're already talking about that. That seems really early. However, presidential candidates, those campaigns are built years before they're formally launched.
Oh, yeah, they have to be.
Yeah. So that they shouldn't, but that's the way that it is. If you want to be president, there's somebody right now in the state legislature who's planning to run in, 2040, whatever. That's how this works. And it's one of the things that sucks about our system. But that's what's happening here. So who do you want to see? So I've gotten a couple of responses already. Send me a note on the Rumble chat box. That's where all of us will see it. If you send it to Facebook, put it in the comments. Gabe's going to see it. If you put it on Twitter or X, I think you guys both will see it, right?
I can see them all.
Oh, you can see them all. Yeah.
I'm telepathic like that.
There you go.
It's got powers.
Who do you want to see? Then we'll get into that discussion a little more in depth just ahead here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Trust
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Someone in that control room is out of control.
On News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 of an inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer. It's brand new year. Tim Jones to tell you about the brand new things happening at The Hideout, famous for the Sunset Patio, 50 big screen TVs, live music and events, a fantastic game room, and of course, the food. The Hideout has a brand new menu featuring their world famous wings, the best handcrafted burgers, new items like the signature Sunset Dip and Dave's Chili, and a second location at Sugar Creek Golf Course in beautiful High Ridge. Experience The Hideout while enjoying a round of golf. Come in for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout, hideoutsportsbar.com, hideoutsportsbar.com. We'll definitely see you there.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
Russia and Ukraine. When does the fighting stop and the living continue? We'll have the very latest.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, here, boy, we're getting some interesting answers, at least on the Rumble chat box, on my question. Who do you want to see the Republicans run in 2020? Who are you supporting? I guess if you're a third-party supporter, who do you want to see there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to any of them here. All right, the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, at least for now, are voided by a court.
Right.
Yeah, we had this in the news information segment at the top of the hour. I want to get your thoughts on this as well. By the way, News Talk STL, just like our website.com, we don't talk about that, quite enough here. We have got a one-stop shop for all kinds of stuff. A lot of information on there. Of course, you can find our podcast there. You can find just about everything there. So check that out and put that in your, your favorites on your browser, newstalkstl.com. Love to start your day with us. Love for you to start your day with us on the website there. Okay, so this was, or maybe this is still, President Trump's leverage. So what happens now? So the basic details are, and a lot of people didn't realize that we have an international trade court, which is a federal court that is set up to oversee basically legal and other conflicts regarding international trade. So this is a federal court. This isn't one of the district court things.
This is their wheelhouse.
Right. So there were a variety of lawsuits that were filed, that basically, I don't know that they were consolidated, but there were several filed challenging Donald Trump's sort of, and I'm using this word denotatively, arbitrary tariffs.
Right.
And they are, by definition, they're arbitrary. It's like, you know what? I'm mad at you. You get a 50% tariff. You know what? I don't like you. I want you to bring you to the table. You get 145% tariff, and then you know what? I changed my mind. And now it's a 25. And so it's just kind of all over the map. And the question isn't necessarily about whether or not we're going to have tariffs. It's what is the extent of the president's authority on this? Right. On the Ingram angle last night on Fox, Senator John Kennedy was asked about this shortly after the ruling was announced.
You mean that a federal judge has intervened with the other two branches' ability to make policy? I'm shocked. That hasn't happened since yesterday.
Okay, so that's one of the arguments that you're hearing on this.
Mhm.
Now, again, I am not a fan. I'm a free trade guy. I am not a fan of the use of tariffs, and I understand there's a lot of people disagree with me. That's a policy disagreement. That's we can do that. So here's the question though: is there is a law on the books where Congress decades ago basically delegated what the Constitution says is Congress's authority, particularly the U.S. House.
Right.
And so the rulings now are essentially saying you can't delegate away your constitutional purview. You can't delegate away your constitutional duty. Tariffs are taxes.
Right.
Now, for the moment, I'm not talking about whether the tariffs are good or bad, but they are taxes.
Right.
And they are, and tariffs themselves are duties and all that kind of stuff, however they're referred to. In the Constitution, Congress is responsible for deciding what those are going to be and how they're going to be applied.
Mhm.
But right now, the president has unilateral authority, and you say, well, nobody threw a fit about this when Biden was in office. Well, this wasn't his leverage point. First
Right.
of all, Biden didn't know what the hell was going on anyway.
We don't know what he was
so
doing.
he didn't know what he was doing.
Did he actually at any point change our
mean, I'm
tariffs?
sure-
I don't remember him actually doing so.
I'm sure that there probably were, but they would have been more probably in the bureaucracy and some trade deal that was announced with some country, and there was something in the fine print on page 486 or something like that. So Donald Trump is leading with it. And so he's saying, this is my leverage. This is what I've got to make deals with. And I'm going to use this blatantly and explicitly. And so, you've got regional courts and district courts that have ruled against him on everything from, some of these tariffs to the, to the immigration stuff. And the Supreme Court has basically slapped down a lot of those courts saying, no, you're a district court. You don't get to set federal policy. Well, this is a federal national court now.
Mhm.
So the jurisdiction thing isn't really as much of an issue. It comes down to whether or not they're getting this right or whether they're getting this wrong.
Right.
And so that's one question. The other question then is putting the spotlight is whether or not the president should have that unilateral authority to raise and lower the tariffs, to raise and lower taxes. I mean, if the president, any president, for instance, if we had a, God forbid, a J.B. Pritzker president.
Oh gosh.
And he said, you know what? We've got a revenue problem. I am writing an executive order, and we are going to raise everybody's income taxes, federal income taxes, by 15%. Well, that wouldn't last a day in court. He didn't have the authority to do that.
Right.
So is that the same thing? Because that's a tax as well. Is that the same thing where this president shouldn't have that authority, or because Congress delegated it to him foolishly, in my opinion, but they did, should he still have that authority?
So interestingly enough, it actually comes down not just to a presidential authority question, but a congressional authority question, in that can Congress delegate constitutional authorities, right? Which is, it's kind of funny to think about. It's not as though necessarily that the executive is overstepping in the same way that we think about. It's that they're accepting a delegation of a power, which is an overstep of their own power. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Jay Monty mentions, in addition to critiquing old Christian rock music from years ago, he says, I find it amazing that these courts existed all the time. Jay Monty, I did not know we had an international trade court.
Of course.
I had no idea we had a federal court. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years, 28 years. I did not know that either.
We only ever hear about these various, institutions, bureaucracies, when something goes wrong.
Yeah, he goes on to say, while the U.S. was getting ripped off, while Biden was breaking the law with school loans and all of that, not one judge said a word. There were some, the courts ruled against Biden on that.
Yeah.
They just ignored it and moved on.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court is, but it is a point well taken that the courts weren't the field of battle of the conservatives or of the Republicans as much as they are being used as a field of battle against the Trump administration.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the president is the one that has almost the sole authority to actually go and deal at the international level with other countries, right? Like, he's the representative of the United States to go and make deals.
Depending on the topic, yes.
Okay.
There are some things that needs congressional approval, but yes.
Because I can in my mind, it makes sense that the president would have the authority with tariffs because that directly has to do with international trade, but would not have the sole authority to do anything about domestic taxes.
Well, article I looked this up. Article 1, Section 8. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense, general welfare. So all of those various terms, at least in the parlance of the people at the time, included tariffs.
And tariffs fall into
tariffs or duties.
Yeah,
essentially,
they are
I
duties,
think they fall into the duties category there. So basically, when the Constitution says shall have the power to, it's exclusionary.
Right.
So if this body is given the power, and like power is capitalized in the Constitution, whenever it's being used, Congress will have the power to. That means no other body, except
that's a proper noun,
except for Congress, shall have that power.
Right.
So
And
it's pretty clear, actually.
Yeah.
From
the question as to whether he should have that power, to your point, well, that's an interesting debate. The idea, just on my amateur historian reading, I mean, I'm interested. I wasn't a history major. I just read a lot of history, or have read a lot of history. The founding fathers wanted that power as decentralized, and they wanted it as close to accountable to we the people as possible. What they feared at that time was one person essentially accumulating too much individual power. That's what they were worried about.
Right.
So that's why that article was written that way.
Yeah. So it's interesting, that because, again, part of this discussion is about whether or not Congress can delegate
their
constitutional powers.
Constitutional power. Right.
Right. So and this was part of the discussion about is it Chevron doctrine?
Yeah.
Essentially, where basically Congress had delegated its regulatory power to the bureaucracies. It's like, we're going to make a law that says we give the power to do this to this group,
which is exactly what they've done year after year after year,
year after year after year. So it's interesting that's kind of where we are again. It's just kind of coming from a different direction.
Let's do the flip test here.
Yep.
I mean, what if a president, and just pick any president, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter who, past or future, if they say, you know what, there's a lot of criticism over the pardons, the authority of pardons with the president, because we were just talking off the air that some of the weird pardons that are being issued right now by the president. But imagine the president said, you know what, I'm going to delegate that to the U.S. House. They can take a vote on whether somebody gets pardoned or not. Well, I don't think he could do that, because the Constitution specifically says this is the power vested in the president.
Right.
And so if Congress decided we're going to take a vote because we think, I don't know, whoever, should be pardoned, the courts would go, that's not what you're allowed to do. So here's the crux of the question with the tariffs thing is who has the courts are not ruling that the tariffs themselves inherently are illegal, or unconstitutional. They're saying that's not the way they're allowed to be applied.
Yeah.
Now, I think the Supreme Court's going to end up hearing this, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think the arguments are pretty cut and dry.
It seems to be.
That's kind of one of the issues. Now,
that's not popular to say that, though, in conservative talk radio. But I mean, I'm constitutionalist before I'm any partisan.
Well, and one of the things that I remember being the case for presidents is parts of their international negotiation leverage, because that's how I've always viewed the Trump tariffs, that they're not the end in and of themselves. They're a means to an end. And he's been using them as leverage for negotiation, which is kind of what business people do. So that, generally speaking, prior presidents presidential power was that I'm going to ask Congress to do something for me, and here's what I'm going to ask Congress to do. So the leverage has been a little more decentralized in that way. It's like, my next budget proposal will include tariffs on your nation of this level. So unless you want that to happen, you need to come in and talk to me. Now, of course, the power of that level of leverage is a lot more diminished than saying, on Tuesday, we're going to impose 165% tariff on you. You should probably come and talk to me on Saturday. You know what I mean? So obviously, the strength of it, the time signature of it is different. So I would actually prefer we go back to the other, because it lends itself more to a more stable environment.
Oh, the markets, when this ruling came out, the markets are
Oh,
they're reacting very positively to this.
Absolutely.
By the way, we're getting some more comments on who should the next presidential be. In the Rumble chat box, Righty Right says, you know what? Amy and Lunch Lady for.
Hey,
there
you go.
All right, let's bring you an update on what's happening with news, including why is the military in North City. It's not a bad thing. And our buddy Chris Arps going to be with us at 7:05. There's so much going on politically, including why won't the left learn their lessons?
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be yourself unless you suck.
On News Talk STL.
I really like all the things you're saying.
News, analysis, opinion.
Thank you very, very much.
News Talk STL.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Military history buffs and collectors, attention. Looking for authentic military collectibles? Look no further than Alamo Military Collectibles, your one-stop shop for genuine military artifacts. Firearms to uniforms, medals to memorabilia, pistols, rifles, bayonets, insignia, patches, helmets, field gear, and more. Both American and foreign pieces. We offer cash or consignment for your items. Alamo Military Collectibles. Visit us online at alamomilitary.com or call 314-638-6505 today.
Hey, Tony Colombo here, inviting you to the Bluff City Outdoors Show Fishing Pentathlon, a one-of-a-kind multi-species fishing tournament Sunday, June 8th at Carlisle Lake. There'll be several side pods, but to win, your team has to catch all 5 species of fish with the highest total weight. This unique tournament gives fishermen of all levels a chance to walk away a winner. Get more info and reserve your spot now by going to BluffCityOutdoors.com and searching tournament entry, or just go to the events tab on the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page. The Fishing Pentathlon.
Brought to you by Great Harvest Bread Company in Maplewood and Intervine flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and more at intervine.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, this is Aaron Dorr. Check out my show, Shall Not Be Infringed, Sunday nights at 9. But now it's more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the National Guard has arrived in the city. It's not a bad thing. Okay, we'll explain that in just a second. Also, I'm putting the question out there. I'm getting some really interesting responses here. Republicans, also speaking to, because not all conservatives consider themselves Republicans, and not all Republicans, unfortunately, are conservatives or MAGA movement supporters. There's overlap with all of those, but they're not always the same thing.
I think I need to make that Venn diagram.
Yeah, we need to make that Venn diagram. Yeah. Who's next when it comes to the presidential race? There were some suggestions by the all brilliant reporters and people who think they know more than we do. So we can start there, but I'm curious as to who you want to see run in 2028. We're getting some answers already, at least on the Rumble chat box. I don't know about the other platforms, but check that out. All right, it is 6:50 right now. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news. The morning news dump.
All right, a court rules and President Trump's tariffs policy gets a big legal setback. We're just talking about that, but here's the actual news story.
A federal trade court has blocked the president from imposing sweeping tariffs on imports under an emergency powers law. The White House has argued that trade deficits amount to a national emergency. The ruling from a 3-judge panel at the New York-based Court of International Trade came after several lawsuits argued Donald Trump has exceeded his authority. The Trump administration has filed an appeal. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All right. So we were just chatting about that. Of course, getting a lot of different perspectives. Trade deficits are not emergencies.
No, they're not.
They can be bad policy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even convinced that they're always necessarily that bad if we get stuff that's less expensive and lowers our cost of living. But in and of itself, a trade deficit is not a national emergency.
Well, and the trade deficit always looks different when you cut it in different slices. In what industry are we talking about? It's like taking an average across multiple industries is a meaningless statistic.
Yeah.
It talking about trade deficits to me feels like talking about income inequality.
Yeah.
It's the same thing because it's essentially neutral. It's a neutral term to me.
I mean, bad deals and bad policy
They
are
happen.
one thing.
They can happen.
And they can definitely hurt us.
Right.
So I'm not poo-pooing away the idea that there are some bad deals out there, but that might be the legal approach that he took or his team took that may have snagged him on this with the court ruling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas on Wednesday. The vice president was telling the attendees that he's excited for the future of cryptocurrency in the U.S., saying that we've got what he calls a once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring innovation to the country via crypto.
If we fail to create regulatory clarity now, we risk chasing this $3 trillion industry offshore in search of a friendlier jurisdiction, and President Trump is going to fight to make sure that does not happen.
Okay, so there's a lot of truth to what he just said. What my hope is that when they establish, and by the way, I did a number of these interviews on like my American Viewpoint show. You can look that up. But if the regulations are more about keeping government's paws off of the market, then I think the vice president is absolutely correct. And I think that's more of the Trump administration's approach, is more of that free market approach with crypto. He's been very crypto friendly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bitcoin is the benefit of it is it's a decentralized, internationally accepted currency. So I think the less we tinker with it, the better off we'll all be.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Now, is he the first vice president or the first one at his level to address one of these kind of conferences?
I don't know the answer to that.
It feels like he is.
Yeah,
like I hadn't heard of any previous high level administration official. But I mean, because there's only vice president, president when we're talking high level, right? To actually address one of these anything about cryptocurrency at a cryptocurrency conference.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean? So,
I know. I mean, I know President Trump just had a private dinner with some investors and
Sure,
things like that.
that happens, but
yeah, but I don't know the answer to that. But it's certainly the most high profile one. That's for sure. All right. The House Oversight Committee is preparing subpoenas for several people who served in the Biden administration. They're investigating the former president's use of the auto pen, or maybe I should say the former president's staff's use of the auto pen. The accusation, of course, is that a group of his, administration staffers took advantage of his declining mental state. Oversight Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer was on Hannity on Fox last night, and he says the former commander-in-chief didn't even sign his final actions in office.
There was more activity in the last 100 days of the Biden administration than the first 3.5 years of the Biden administration.
Former White House physician Kevin O'Connor is among those who are going to be called to testify, and they're going to get a subpoena.
Remember when Watergate was the biggest presidential scandal ever in the history of the universe? And it feels like we've gotten multiple Watergate level or Watergate plus, Watergate squared levels of horrible stories coming out of the last two administrations basically together. It's like the spying scandal, the Obama years, there were some things like that. It's like, what is, and the thing is, the news hasn't been covering them as though they are the massive scandals that they are. This is huge.
It could be.
The idea that a staffer exercise an unelected random person that we don't know use presidential power right under our nose, that's crazy.
Yeah, my tinfoil hat thing is that's why we see so many of these judges and Congress members feeling so emboldened, is because they basically weakened at Biden's the entire administration, and they got too comfortable not having to be held accountable or be made visible for what they were doing.
Let me put it this way. If Comer and his committee prove what they think they're going to prove, that is a coup d'etat.
Yes. That's what that means.
And I don't say that lightly. That is a coup d'etat. That is the assumption of power over the elected president. That is a coup d'etat. Just if they prove what they think they're going to prove, that's what that is.
Man, hit them with treason.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so the Trump administration, as you know, was of course promising transparency in the Epstein case. Epstein died in 2019. The Biden and the Trump administrations both say that he killed himself, but many still have questions about the death, saying there's been a cover-up. FBI Director Kash Patel was on Fox's special report. It says, that Epstein report that we've been promising you, it's just going to take a lot of time. Here's what he said.
We are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up.
Okay. I'm not fully buying this.
I'm
just saying I'm not fully buying this. Because my theory here, and I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, is that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are both saying, we've got all of the files. They're on our desk. We had to go get them. They stonewalled. Okay, I get that. It sounds to me like there's some information in there that is not convenient.
Look,
right now for the current team in power.
Here's the problem when they say these kind of things. It's like, wait, you convicted somebody for selling young girls to people. That came out in court. It had to, right? It's like, so I was selling this girl, the plaintiff, or to
the victim,
the victim, the one who's suing, to this guy. That's all I want. Who's that guy?
Right. Yeah.
You had to talk about it.
There's a reason that I think there's more to it. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
By the way, the National Guard has arrived in North City. 41 Guard members are on a 2-week deployment. What they're doing is collecting and removing the debris to make it easier to clean up and rebuild. So nothing security-wise, nothing's falling apart. This is going to be a big help to North City. Don't freak out when you see the Guard there.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Some Chinese nationals studying in the U.S. may soon be shown the door. Secretary of State Rubio says their backgrounds will be scrutinized. Any students with ties to the Chinese Communist Party and who are engaged in critical areas of study will have their visas revoked.
Chinese students have seen rising rejection rates for visas in recent years amid strained US-China relations, while Hong Kong says it would welcome students from all over who've been impacted by the US's changing policies.
And that's correspondent Charles Deladesma. China continues to aggressively expand its space ventures, launching an unmanned mission to collect and return samples from a pair of asteroids near Mars. The U.S. Court of International Trade has ruled against President Trump's tariffs. The White House is appealing the court's finding that Mr. Trump exceeded his authority. The administration says it's not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. And after granting several pardons this week, the president considering more of the same.
The president pardoned Michael Grimm, who resigned from Congress after being convicted of tax fraud. He resigned in 2015 after pleading guilty, and he served 8 months in prison. Donald Trump also signed pardons for reality TV hosts Todd and Julie Chrisley, who were convicted of conspiring to defraud banks out of more than $30 million. And the president told reporters he's considering pardoning the men convicted of conspiring to kidnap Michigan's Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Greg Clugston, the White House.
Elon Musk is leaving the Trump administration after leading D.O.G.E, the effort to combat government waste, fraud, and abuse. Thanking the president for the opportunity to serve, Musk says the work of D.O.G.E will continue. On Wall Street this morning, Dow futures up 170 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I listen to the radio all day and I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor. And I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, I've got much better range of motion. If you're experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2025 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 7/20/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the night.
The interview is with Elton John, plus you'll hear our exclusive, the first 2 songs from the Billy Joel, Elton John, Busch Stadium concert from August of 1994. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. On News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple dog Darian!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now. Believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
This is your cousin.
All right. Is President Trump at or beyond the limits of his authority, or is this another case of court interfering? Also, how about this question? Why won't the left learn their lessons about being, insane
and terrible?
All right. A lot of stuff going on politically right now. NewsTalkSTL's app. Let's see here. Feature of the day. Gabe, what's one of your favorite features of the new NewsTalk app?
Well, you hit the go button, and that brings up the wheel of fun,
Yes.
I like to call it, right? And then you can follow the individual shows. You go to the little calendar deal, and that will take you to the list of shows. You hit one of those, you hit the little heart next to them. You can follow the show. So every time the show comes up, every time they post something, every time a podcast comes out, you get notified.
Nice. Okay, there it is. So check that out. Make sure you've got our News Talk STL app. It is completely free. 7:06 right now. Got our friend Chris Arps. So if you wanted to follow, say, the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, you could do that right there on the app and just heart that, because Chris, we heart you.
We heart you, Chris.
I am begging folks, please listen to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on News Talk STL 4 to 6. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, doing all right. All right, so when I'm looking at all the different headlines, and that's why I texted you last night, I'm like, you know what? If I'm thinking the national politics and I want that fresh perspective, I want Chris on. So obviously the big news today is that International Trade Court, or the Federal Trade Court of International Trade, whatever it's called, which I didn't even know existed until recently, but apparently this is its jurisdiction. It is basically saying the president has overstepped his authority by unilaterally raising and lowering tariffs and all that kind of stuff. This is the president's leverage on these deals. If this ruling stands, what does that mean for the Trump administration? Because this is the marquee agenda for the president.
Well, this decision last night is a big blow to the president's policies of trying to remake world trade. This was a court I had never heard of either, Mike. When we had Zach Smith, our expert from the Heritage Foundation, was telling us about this. I had never heard of this court either. It's a 3-judge panel, Ronald Reagan, Obama, and President Trump himself. He appointed a person on this panel. I'm really surprised there's a Ronald Reagan appointment still on a court. That surprised me. But they voted yesterday night or last night unanimously to say that the president overstepped his bounds, declaring an emergency when he placed these tariffs on Liberation Day. It's a big blow to the policies, I said. But one thing to take notice, he still has the ability to place 15% tariffs on countries that have a significant trade deficit with the United States, and the tariffs that were placed on automobiles and metals at 25%. That is separate from this agreement. So the president still has leverage, but it's been significantly reduced with this ruling last night.
Morning, Chris. Gabe here. So switching gears, not too different here, but we're still talking economy. But I'm a little butthurt about DOGE. I'm a little mad about it. Elon, recently, his scheduled time as head of DOGE, came up. He said his goodbyes and his thank yous, but also expressed some frustration, basically the same frustration that I have, that nobody's really following through on some of the things that DOGE has recommended. So what do you make of this? I mean, the work of DOGE is going to continue until DOGE hits its scheduled dissolution. But do you think DOGE is going to have as significant an impact on our future as we had hoped?
Well, I think the White House will disagree with you just a bit when it comes to DOGE not making an impact. Next week, they're supposed to be sending rescission legislation up to the House, which is supposed to defund USAID and PBS and NPR. So they'll say that those DOGE cuts are going to be implemented, and I expect the House to probably pass that. I think what Elon Musk learned that cutting the fat in government is a lot harder than it is cutting it within a company. And, he promised $1 trillion in cuts. They only got to about $150 billion. It's very tough to cut fat out of the government when you have discretionary spending is 80% of the budget. You've got to make tough choices on where to cut, and unfortunately, for decades now, the politicians don't want to make those tough choices.
Yeah, and one of the things that when you've got a representative, a republic here with a democratic process, is I want to cut spending, but not for that thing in my district.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the dynamics. It is 7:10 right now. We're visiting with our very own Chris Arps. Okay, earlier, just within the last several days, we find out that the Democratic Party is looking at spending upwards of $20 million because they don't understand why so many men don't want to vote for Democrats, and they have to learn how to talk to men. And so this is, I mean, it's just hysterical to me. And they don't even really care that this is in the news at this point. What is it about the Democrats? What is it about the left in general, Chris, that prevents them from learning their mistakes and looking in a mirror and saying, oh, maybe we are crazy?
I think the left is basically a far left socialist party right now, with the bases on the coast, the left and the left coast and New York City, and that's where they think that the majority of people's thinkings are, and they don't understand that those of us in flyover country don't want to have to pay for transgender surgeries for minors. We don't want to have restrictions on our guns. We believe there should be some type of restriction when it comes to abortion. You shouldn't be able to get abortions up to birth, and in some cases probably after birth. And I think the one thing about men and that they don't understand is most red-blooded American males, we love America. We love our country. And we don't see that with the Democratic Party. I think they need to start there.
Chris, I wanted to get your perspective on the international student ban over at Harvard. I'm because I first of all, MIT had a little bit of a rivalry with Harvard, so there's also that. But so I'm glad to see it. But also,
I'm just glad to see Harvard take a shot.
I'm glad to see Harvard take a shot.
You're an MIT grad.
Exactly. So I guess one of the things that I find most interesting is the call to redirect the billions of dollars of currently paused, I suppose, federal contract with Harvard to blue collar work, to trade schools and the like. What do you make of this feud between the Trump administration and Harvard going on right now?
Look, Harvard is a private institution, so they should be able to allow anyone that they want into their school who is vetted by the United States. They're safe. If they can meet the academic requirements, let them in. I applaud the president. I 100% support his efforts on taking the federal grant money away from them because they won't protect their Jewish students. You know, we talked about this on the show last week. You do the famous Tony Colombo flip test, and you take Jewish students out of the equation, and you put black students in the equation, and you had black students walking these Ivy League schools and people hurling insults at them and telling them to go back to Africa, and you have college presidents can't tell you what racism is. People would be up in arms, and no one would have a problem with taking this grant money away from them. Now, what the Ivy League and what Harvard will say is that taking this grant money away, you're hurting research because we're studying Alzheimer's and cancer and all of that. So the president's grudge against Harvard is not only hurting Harvard, but it's hurting research and for finding possible cures for diseases. So that will be their tagline. But I don't think most people are going to cry many tears for an institution that has a $50 billion endowment.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, real quick, a little bit closer to home, the special session coming up next week. Is Governor Kehoe, who I think in his first few months on the job has made a lot of headway into building and rebuilding relationships, particularly with conservatives, is he risking any political capital by pushing for the stadium funding corporate welfare thing so hard for this special session?
I think with the activist types that are more rah-rah and more cutting spending and all of that and don't see the politics of it will be angry. I think people that kind of look at politics, kind of analyze it, see what this is about. Look, the governor's in a tough spot. Look, he did have a very good session. He got a lot of things done. He's made some inroads with legislators. He was walking the halls. But you also got to look at politicians. They're all about legacy too. And he doesn't want to be the governor when the Chiefs and the Royals moved across the border, and he didn't make every effort that he could to try to get this passed. I think in his heart he'd love to see the Royals and the Chiefs stay in Kansas, but I think inwardly, I don't think he'll cry many tears if this fails, because this is not something I think really the public wants.
Yeah.
Or probably needs.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the economics, I mean, it's when you've got far left newspapers like the Post-Dispatch and the Star actually citing the Show Me Institute, as we mentioned yesterday, and they're saying, well, the Show Me Institute's right about this. You've got a broad spectrum saying, well, shouldn't we be spending our money or continuing to collect taxes to do other things than this? And it just is something, even for us sports fans, we're like, wait a minute. Why am I contributing to this? Why am I paying for this? And so, so it is. I appreciate that the governor's in a really, really tough spot. I think the broad base of opposition to the very concept has been fascinating to me.
Yeah, I don't think privately, I don't think he'll lose much sleep or shed many tears if it fails.
Yeah. Interesting take there. All right, Chris, you hear him and Tim Jones every 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, including today. Is it too early to know what's coming up on the show today? Or you got anybody booked in particular?
Wow. I don't know, because Fridays are pretty open. We don't have any regular guests. So I don't know. Just stay tuned.
There you go.
Tease, huh?
It's going to be, because God knows what's going to happen later today for sure. All right, Chris, we will chat with you again soon, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, 314-912-1019. That's an interesting take that, the governor really isn't as worried about it as he would think, but he's got to at least show that he tried really, really hard on this. I also have the take on, listen, Chiefs, Royals, you want to say, what have you done for me lately? Not enough. I'm leaving. Screw you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I mean, like Senator Rick Brattin said on the show, yesterday. I'm this state and that local community has supported you for decades. And if that's not enough, and now you're going to take your balls and go somewhere else, screw you.
Stop it right now before you blow us all away.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
The cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On NewsTalk STL. NewsTalk STL.
Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. Means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This will be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888 to learn more about our special $67 offer.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention NewsTalk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family on specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention NewsTalk STL for 10% off.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL, live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Life is so strange. When you're down, how can you tell where you're going?
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
All right, the so-called Liberation Day tariffs are, at least for now, essentially voided by the court. There's going to be an appeal. Eventually, it's going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. Let's cover that real quick here. Also, Elon Musk's exit from Doge. There's what's really happening. There's what the media is saying that's happening, and then there's the effect that we think this is going to have on that. Let's get to that here in just a couple minutes as well. It's 7:21. All right, I've already seen a couple articles from the brilliant media about about who are the likely contenders to succeed Donald Trump with the 2028 election here. Who you got? Let's speculate at 7:35. So in the next information segment, I'm going to go through the Rumble chat, and because we've had a lot, man. There's a lot going on in the Rumble chat right now. So I'm gonna try to get to write down the names that people are responding to, because we had several names, including Gabe Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Well. So he's like, run Gabe.
Apparently somebody's going to. No. If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
So we've got those, but let me know, who do you want to see? 314-912-1019. Send us a note on Facebook comments or Rumble chat box, or a voicemail off the Rumble app. So let us know here. All right, so we'll get to that in just a little bit. That's a 7:35 here. Okay, so real quick, the federal court, in this case, a court that was set up to deal with international trade issues, has ruled that President Trump has overstepped his constitutional authority in implementing all of these and I'm using the word, a lot of times we say arbitrary, and that's insulting. I mean arbitrary as in unilateral.
Yeah, and not necessarily
based on anything.
Based on the same sets of criteria.
Right.
Yeah. So it can kind of be anything,
right?
For any reason at any time.
Yeah, and so the courts have said he doesn't have the authority to do that. So all of these so-called Liberation Day tariffs essentially are on hold at the very least, if not struck down.
Right.
Now, the Trump administration is appealing, and I don't know if that goes straight to the U.S. Supreme Court or if it goes to another court. I don't know. But this is likely going to end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. So there are two issues here. There's the debate over the policy of using tariffs as sort of economic weapons and leverage, in the way that it's being done. There's that discussion.
Right.
This discussion isn't even about that, because the court, as I understand the ruling, did not rule that the tariffs are bad or good, or too high or too low. Or they ruled that he just doesn't have the authority to do it.
Right. And also that Congress, and this may necessarily be a sort of a separate issue, that Congress doesn't have the authority to delegate that power.
Yeah.
And I find that an even more fascinating argument, on top of all the other things, is that if you as an entity are afforded power by the Constitution, you can't give it away.
Right. Exactly. So this is going to be really interesting, because right now we're looking at the tariff thing as this is a moment in time, and this is the tool the president is used to bring other countries to the table and bring other, frankly, businesses to the table. And he's been very effective in his negotiations, for the most part, although he tends to back off those tariffs. When the rubber hits the road, and then, a lot of companies like, you're going to be killing off our business here. He's tended to sort of back off on those, or suspend them, or extend them, whatever the case is. But it's been effective in driving at least the conversation and negotiations. So If he can't do that, then what?
Right. Yeah. The I think the entire methodology of the Trump administration's attempt to restructure our domestic and international economy is going to have to find a new stick, because we basically, carrot and stick is kind of it's the method of all negotiation, essentially.
Yeah.
Carrot and stick.
Except he usually leads with the stick.
He
and
leads
says,
with stick.
Do you want the carrot? Then don't make me beat you with the stick again. I mean, that's basically his art of the deal.
That's true. That is true. Well, he threatens the stick a lot. He doesn't necessarily hit you with it, but he it gets real close. Like he swings it near your face,
make you flinch.
He makes
like an abused puppy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So he's gonna have to find a different stick if he doesn't have the tariffs to go in, and I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, so that's the current at the moment discussion.
Yes.
But then also keep in mind, especially for those who are really angry that the courts keep sort of stepping in on his trade stuff. Keep in mind that whatever this precedent ends up being, whatever this court ruling is, it's going to bind future presidents.
Right.
So it could bind a President Newsom. It could bind a President Whitmer.
Right.
It could bind a President Booker. It could bind a President Pritzker.
Sorry, President Booker made me laugh.
I know. President Spartacus.
President Spartacus.
That's right. He gave a speech once.
Yeah. It was really long.
Yeah. So there's the current issue, and then there's the what does this mean down the road? And so that's what I would encourage. Now, you may say, hey, if they're elected president, they should have this authority too. And that's just being intellectually honest. If that's the way you feel about it, that's defensible. I can respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also say, well, I don't want them to do it, so I don't want this president. But the bottom line is the Constitution is very clear on who has the authority to lay and collect those taxes, tariffs, duties, as it's referred to in the Constitution.
Right. Yeah. And it's pretty clear what's going on with that stuff.
Okay. Last few minutes here. Elon Musk all over the news. Because, he's leaving Doge.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way,
scheduled.
Yeah. Well, a little bit before schedule.
Is it?
Just a hair before schedule.
All right.
And actually tomorrow I'm going to be, I'm going to have on the show Dennis Neal. You may remember him. He used to be a CNBC, business host. But he's got a book out on Elon Musk. He's a big Elon Musk guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk to him about that tomorrow on the show. But Elon Musk clearly frustrated.
Yes.
With the fact that Doge came into all of this fanfare. All of the Republicans wanted the photo op with him.
There was a universal support expressed by
on the right,
across all quarters, right? He was expecting to be able to just do the do.
And even those who were fanboys of him and Doge, nobody's getting the majority of these cuts actually implemented.
Right.
There are things that Doge has brought out that are being put in. For instance, in the spending bill, some of the Medicaid, they're not even cuts, the reform, because we're talking about people who shouldn't be qualifying in the first place.
Right.
And they pointed out there are people who shouldn't be qualifying that you're spending billions of dollars on.
And they're like, okay, I guess we could remove them.
And so you've got those are being put in. So there has been an effect with Doge, but for the majority of it, I think what Elon Musk has just discovered, or is discovering, that the establishment, what Trump calls the swamp, what Vivek Ramaswamy called the administrative state, he's finding out that that's a lot more powerful than probably what he realized. Because somebody like Elon Musk, he is a world leader. He's not elected to anything,
right?
But he is a world leader.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a politician to be a world leader. So I think these people like Elon Musk tend to think on such larger terms than people who are elected to a local office.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's got to be frustrating when you're like, I've identified the problem. We have found the solution. We've put it on paper. We've shown you what happens if you fix the problem with the solution that we did the work for. Why aren't you doing it? You said you wanted us to find this for you. We found it. Why aren't you doing it? And for the majority of what Doge has found and is finding, it's all talk and no action from Congress.
Yeah, and that's been my frustration, because ever since I first heard of Doge, I've been one of these number one Doge cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually surprised that I refrained enough from from buying Doge merch because
I'm surprised
because I should have been rocking the Doge merch from get go with how much fanboying I was doing over the organization, just the idea of it, because I could see similarly to what Elon Musk saw, the problems that were inherent, the savings that could be drawn out just from doing simple things like, I don't know, coding what you're actually spending the money on out of the treasury,
right,
and making it mandatory that you put something in that space. It hadn't been mandatory before, guys. So if you sent a request to treasury, they would write the check regardless. That's silly. Those types of things. And so little of what the Doge recommendations, which are all documented, one of the most transparent organizations ever in government history, as far as I'm concerned. So those cuts are not being implemented by people who just a few months ago were cheerleading it.
Right. And so what we're finding, though, and I think this is the rub here, like I said, that establishment is much more powerful than even probably what we thought.
It's like an alien face hugger.
Yep. All right, who you got for 2028? Let's talk about that right after we hear from one Mr. Larry Connors.
Did you know that if you're not watching CNN, you're the problem?
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill.
Larry Connors Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit vincentsjewelers.com. This is Larry Connors Commentary on News Talk STL.
In this business, ratings are always important. The higher the ratings, the more audience you have, or supposedly have. But ratings are often like that old saying, figures don't lie, but liars figure. Which brings us to the latest ratings for CNN. They didn't just shoot themselves in the foot, but both feet and the head. And looking at these numbers, I am convinced Larry Connors USA and all the programs on News Talk STL have better audiences than CNN. I definitely know we have smarter audiences. So how bad is it at CNN? Well, let's begin with Fox News. 2.5 million viewers. The latest CNN numbers, 405,000. That's not a misprint. That's an average. And in the prime audience ages of 25 to 54, over the course of one day, CNN got only 58,000. CNN is still trying to figure out, how did things get so bad? Well, we know, don't we? We know that we all got fed up with fake news. Now, CNN bosses will also know how to get to Oxbow, North Dakota. The answer, bad ratings.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL. Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
We are kicking off June with a very special series dedicated to home ownership and the home build process. So tune in this Sunday. We've got special guest Jim Brennan with McKelvey Homes talking about the quality and craftsmanship they've been building right here in the St. Louis area since 1898. Check it out right here on News Talk STL Sunday morning, 9 a.m. or on SerenityWealthNowRadio.com.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, steel, aluminum, cedar, and more. We are the only coating company selected by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal. where all 3 episodes concentrate on unpainted brick. If you maintain or own a business with a tired-looking building, you owe it to yourself to look at Rhino Shield and our beautifully durable color schemes. Evaluations are free. We're making buildings pop and be noticed again, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks, exceeding expectations every day with our products, people, and performance. Now is the time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or go to 877-25rhino.com and see how honest and transparent we really are. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Company, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL.
So take them off, the blinders that cover your eyes.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
All right, is it too early to start talking about the next presidential campaign? I mean, it probably is. It's too early. It really is. In fact, that might be irresponsible. So let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. All right. By the way, Flashback Friday coming up tomorrow. Get your request in. 80s bump music. What do you want to hear? Send them to Jerome. I guess send them to me or Gabe, but we're just going to forward them to Jerome.
Yeah.
So send those in. But get those in this morning if you can, and we'll get that playlist set and surprise me and everybody else with whatever you pick.
And I would like to reiterate, please make sure that they are indeed from the 80s, because there are a lot of great songs that I'm like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then it's either 91 or 79.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Easy.
Right. Okay, so I saw an article, and it was an AOL article. And the only reason, because I don't really scroll AOL, but Mark Levin retweeted it the other day.
Okay.
And it's called 7 Most Likely Successors to Trump in 2028. So I couldn't resist.
Of course,
I started looking in there. I look at so I say let's play the political pundit games. Okay, so
right.
who's next? Who do you want to see as next in line for a presidential run here as well? So several people on the Rumble chat box have already commented, and if you got anything from Facebook or Twitter, let me know here as well. But presidential campaigns are built years ahead. Nobody is going to get to January of 2028 and saying, you know what, I think I got a shot. Let me start thinking about running. That's not how this works.
No.
You know, whoever is going to be running in 2032 is already laying the groundwork now.
They have an organization.
That's
they do.
how that works, you know, and then you've got a process. Like we just saw Cory Booker, you know, announce that he's got a new book coming out later this year. That means he's running for president on the Democratic side.
Yes, FYI, you get a lot of attraction when you say to the various news organizations, "Hey, I have a book to talk about." It's like, okay, well, we'll bring you on. Of course, so that gives you national exposure if you are, you know,
and
not
you do all the
necessarily
interviews
national.
and all this kind of stuff. I mean, because you know what? Listen, I'll do the interviews. You got a book out, and I know it's just a campaign platform thing. You know what? I'm going to have you on the show and question you. You know, not even just about the book, but overall, I'm a mark for it. I'm a sucker for it. I'll do it. Okay, so this AOL article, which, you know, take it for what it's worth. Some of the names that they threw out, it says in the first line here, Vice President Vance says talk of Vance as Trump's heir apparent began as soon as the president named him as his running mate last year during obviously the last campaign. So that was one. It also says Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Donald Trump Jr., which I have seen some social media talk about that. Governor Ron DeSantis, his name comes up a lot. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp are the names in this. I think those are the only ones. Yeah, those are the ones in that particular article. So those were the names that they said, well, these are the top 7. Now, whether or not they end up being the top 7 or not, I don't know. But who do you think, I guess, would be the natural contenders in that race, or who do you want to see in there? What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I mean, no surprise here. My top pick was DeSantis last time. Yeah. So I still think he's probably been the most effective Republican governor of a state. Certainly, during his tenure, and for the last decade, I'd say he's been one of the most effective Republican governors because
he's term limited out.
He's term limited out. So he took Florida from a very, I guess it was a light purple.
Yeah,
state
it was
at best.
It was a purple state.
He made Miami red. It's like what, bro?
Yeah,
yeah. So I think he's been very effective that way. I'd like to see him on the national stage. I guess he could use a little more polish in certain areas because certain people don't really kind of, vibe with him or something. I don't know. The intangibles are weird in terms of politics, but I like him. And I'm surprised at myself how much I've turned out to like J.D. Vance.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting because of those names. And then I want your picks here in a second here. DeSantis and J.D. Vance came up a lot in the Rumble chat box. Jay Monty was saying, J.D. Vance and Ron DeSantis as a ticket. Corporeal Being, Ron DeSantis, and he said Josh Hawley, I guess.
Interesting.
Lunch Lady, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio. And Jay Monty said he's got some dark horses he thinks we should watch.
Okay, I'm curious about those.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Whoa,
and
he said as a Republican?
As a Republican.
Wow.
And then Marco Rubio, and then he actually said Charlie Kirk. He said, I'm convinced Charlie Kirk has ambitions. No. I'll leave it at no. And then Amy also concurred with Vance and DeSantis. Righty Right says Clarence Thomas. I would not want to lose Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court.
No.
And he's also way past the age.
He's really
yeah, interesting. All right, what do you think, Jerome?
Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mitch McConnell.
You did that just to get my blood pressure up.
President Green.
Would it be better if I replaced McConnell with RFK Jr.?
No, I'm not voting for Worm Brain.
No, I want the brain worms themselves to be president, and then RFK Jr. can be the vice president. I might be a bit of an outlier here and ruffle some feathers. I think Thomas Massey and Joe Jorgensen would have run a really good ticket.
Massey.
I consistently, especially when it comes to budgetary and financial stuff and Second Amendment rights, if Thomas is against something, we should all probably look deeper into it and say, well, do we really want to support this? I think that's consistent with the right and even some moderate left people. And I think that they would have a really good chance. Joe Jorgensen, I know she's a little bit further left.
You're probably going to have to explain. Was she the presidential nominee for the Libertarians last time?
Yep.
So, okay. Yeah. So you have to, a lot of people may not know who she is.
Yeah. Wow, there's a lot to unpack with this short amount of time, but long story short, she's got a very good stance on pro-2A, anti-ATF stances and stuff like that. Her tax plans make a lot of sense in terms of there should be less of them. She is a little bit left-leaning when it comes to stuff like abortion, which is going to put that's why I would put her at the vice president position. But I think that that's more of the direction that we need to go as a country. I don't think that the hard tribalism of the past is going to continue to do any good for us. And I just think, although Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think would be absolutely amazing. Put Alex Jones as like the press, have him be the White House press secretary. Yeah, and then
my opinion of Marjorie Taylor Greene is definitely not popular with the MAGA movement on here.
And straight up wants to add Maxine Waters for president.
Corporeal Being says who he wants: Rand Paul and Kennedy. I'm assuming he means RFK Jr. Maybe John Kennedy I think he means RFK Jr. I'm guessing on that. Let's see here. Oh, no. He says no, Senator Kennedy. Yeah,
Senator
no, if Senator Kennedy were 20 years younger, he would be a serious contender. I really like him.
Senator Kennedy in Holly would actually be a very confrontational position, to be honest. I think that they would be just interrogating everybody in Congress right now. That'd be pretty cool.
For what now?
Holly and Kennedy.
Josh Hawley. Yeah, exactly.
They would be they would not be putting up with any nonsense.
DMCCB, Vance is on his list. DeSantis as well. Gabbard is interesting, is what he's saying there.
Gabbard ain't happening. She's too far left. I mean, honestly, I think people forget because she has these very minor overlaps with MAGA, not even necessarily Republicans. She's very and she occasionally says reasonable things like the left and right should talk.
I think on some national security stuff, I think she's very strong.
She's solid on national security.
Yeah,
yes.
I am telling you, had she been on the presidential ticket for the Democrats, I don't know that any Republican would have won that race.
No.
If they had gone with center left of center Democrats like her or Manchin or something,
yeah.
I don't think the Republicans, any Republican would have had a chance.
A Manchin Gabbard ticket would have run the table.
Would have run the table. We would have been whooped.
Mhm.
And the Democrats probably would have won majorities in both chambers of Congress. So the Democrats, fortunately, are not smart enough to nominate people like that.
Now, do you think that if it was JD for president, Tulsi for vice president, do you think that would have a shot at dominating?
I think that appeals to the middle. I think she appeals to the middle a lot.
She does.
Again, there's a lot. I don't want her in the presidential spot. I think she's fine where she is. I'm glad she's where she is now. I think she's an asset to the country where she's at.
Yes.
And so, but I don't think I would want her as president or vice president just because she is on the left. Now she's towards the middle on the left, but she is on the left.
I think we need to think of our politics the way Phil Jackson thought about the Bulls in the 90s, right? Everybody has a position, and you don't put Rodman as point guard, right? He's like, he's a power forward. That's what he does. He gets rebounds. That's all he does. You do not pass to him. Just let him get the ball from the rim. That's how that works, right?
He'll get it to somebody else.
Exactly. So Tulsi Gabbard has her spot, I think, in the Big Tent. Big Tent, I think, is where we need to be.
Yeah.
But that Big Tent, the center pole, needs to be conservatism. And I think that's kind of where we might get a little problems with certain people.
I'm actually a little surprised at how often I'm seeing Ron DeSantis' name. Because like you, during the actual 2024 race,
the primary,
I was a DeSantis guy.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting that he's
coming
back up again and again. And I like Ron DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've picked a favorite yet for 2028, but I'm glad he's in the mix. All right, just ahead here. Let's do something totally different.
Okay, let's reset.
What are those sounds that make you want to punch a wall? Those things. Does somebody ask Reddit?
That's
on this? And
not
I think
Zen, Mike.
I think it's hilarious.
Okay.
Some of the answers that we got.
NewsTalkSTL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on NewsTalkSTL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
The one and only Karen Catalina.
That's not always a bad thing not to be a mensch.
Oh.
Sometimes you're a little bit of a rabble-rouser. It depends.
Yeah,
you are a mensch. You're a mensch, but,
I think you could be.
Because he's a mensch.
Because I'm a mensch, okay?
Two Jews, three opinions. It depends.
All right.
So a mensch is a gentleman, to be a gentleman.
That's me, then. Come on.
That's
him, Karen.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Anthony's Produce is your one-stop shop for locally grown produce. The best tomatoes in town, Amish grown. Come, check out a huge selection of annuals, tropicals, hanging baskets, and perennials. Have some chocolate-covered strawberries or a fruit bouquet delivered by us. Special events coming up? Let Anthony's make your fruit and vegetable trays an easy project. Order from us. It's our specialty. 7 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 7 to 6:30, and Sundays, 8 to 5. 701 Jungerman Road and at anthonysproduce.com.
In my eyes,
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
What the hell?
I don't understand what's happening.
My goodness.
Okay,
No,
so
we've got some like TV. We can elaborate on what's going on here. I'm about to go into my intro, and Gabe just has this resigned look on his face. He just points up at the monitor.
What is happening right there?
What is that thing on there?
Okay, so side of the head shaved.
Yeah.
The rest of the hair is bright, like aqua.
It's like it's like neon aqua from, you remember the troll dolls?
Oh
back in
yeah,
the day?
troll
It's
doll
like
hair.
One of those.
Troll doll hair, and of course the bull style nose ring.
Yeah.
So I know we talk a lot about having faces for radio. I think that, and I know my hairstyle now is sort of like that, but trust me, I will never walk in with that. I promise you, I will never walk in looking like
And
that.
they zoomed in on her.
Look, Viking tails beat mental hair illness haircuts every time.
Yeah, if you know what Drum's talking about, go ahead and just get onto our stream anywhere, YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or X. There you go. Model the rock star hair, man.
Yeah,
it is.
See, that's a Viking ponytail. That's fine. That's fine.
He's in line to be the next drummer for Disturbed.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right. 750 right now. Here's one of those Reddit thing, guys.
Yes.
And I don't know why this cracked me up so much. They asked the question, what is a sound? That sound that just makes you angry. You cannot stand to hear it.
Oof. I don't know. The thing is, it's tough to kind of come up with just on my own. Generally speaking, if it happens, I have a visceral reaction. Like whatever the sound is, my body responds immediately to it. Now, I will say this: just any alarm sound. For some reason, it freaks me out. Any alarm sound, and I say, okay, well, what's the problem? Somebody fix it because that needs to stop.
Yeah. Wait, what about you, Jerome?
Oh, so mine, maybe you can agree with this.
From Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
Guys.
So there were several of these sounds that were suggested.
The backup sound.
That's
the
either microwave
or the microwave. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why on some of these newer microwaves they play a little tune now.
Oh, but see, mine doesn't. It
Okay.
just beeps. How about this one here?
Is it like brushing something
like
or
styrofoam rubbing?
Oh, the styrofoam rubbing.
Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. That can get a little. Oh,
okay.
Yeah,
that one sets me the F off.
Let me go back here. Yes, there it is.
Yes,
there are people out there right now that are not going to hear anything wrong with that, though.
The smoke detector beep. Oh, fork on a plate.
Yeah. Okay,
set my teeth on edge.
Here are things that made like the top list on there, and I got to go back to the Rumble.
Change your battery.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Before Gabe commits battery,
it makes me so angry. Before I commit battery, nice.
Let's see here. Let's go with someone just put hearing the word bruh. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. Somebody was like really kind of, although I get it, they said basically children screaming, shrieking, crying. Okay,
there's a limit.
There's a little bit. You gotta like, hey, they're kids.
They're having fun,
right?
It's life.
You know, outside, like outside my door, there's a bunch of kids that run around and play all the time. I think it's cute.
The neighborhood sounds
that's great.
Just exists, and that's fine.
The crying, I get that, but come on, let's show some grace. Okay,
right?
They're kids, they're babies. Now if they're out of control because of bad parenting, that's one thing, but okay.
And maybe that's the context. Maybe it's a screaming out of control child at Walmart.
Yeah.
That will set my teeth on edge. Absolutely.
This one didn't make the list, but 101 straight up says dial up fax noises.
Actually, I find that soothing.
Interesting, really.
The AOL startup disc sound?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Let's see here. DM CCB on Rumble says nails on a chalkboard.
Yep,
that's pretty bad.
Standard.
Yep.
Standard.
A cat about to barf.
Oh,
that is the worst. I got to tell you, if I hear that, I'm like,
gosh.
Rosie,
where are you?
and I will go from a deep sleep to a full sprint.
Yes.
In a second.
Yes.
Because she is about to upchuck on like Rachel's comforter. Or
right.
something
Exactly.
Like
It's always on something soft too. It's like there's hardwood floor right there. So much easier to clean. Just right there.
So one of my personal pet peeves is when somebody's blasting like bass heavy music and it's just muffled in the distance.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
Oh.
just turn it down, man.
And it's rattling the edges of your doors on your car.
the trunk rattle.
Yeah, the
Yes.
or your trunk or something like that's stupid. Don't do that. You're hurting your ears and it doesn't sound good. Why are you doing that?
Yeah. And I had to think about what this one was. It says that "Oh no 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 no" song on TikTok.
I have no idea.
I think I know which one they're talking about, and I think it's just a matter of everybody uses it, so maybe it's just repetitive.
So we're talking about like the "All I Want for Christmas Is You" of TikTok videos.
Right, yeah.
With music.
I'm not brain rotted enough to use TikTok.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
so-
But I've seen it because those end up on Reels.
They
on
they
Facebook,
end
so.
up in Instagram and Facebook. and
How about
whatnot,
this
too.
one? Snoring.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it depends. There are certain snores where it's just like, okay, they're asleep. That's
Mhm.
fine. There are certain snores that are like where 3.5 on the Richter scale level.
Yeah, I was gonna say, then there's the ship coming into the harbor snore.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you mention when the fork scrapes the plate?
Forks on a plate.
That's the nails on the chalkboard.
Oh yeah, same thing.
This one I relate to. This one, number 5 on the list: smacking when eating.
Oh,
I was just gonna say that.
Ugh. Close your effing mouth.
No kidding.
Did your mama teach you nothing?
That's right.
Got no
Let's
home
see here.
training.
I don't really use Microsoft Teams, but somebody said the Microsoft Teams alert.
Okay, I guess I don't know.
I don't know why that would.
That sounds like PTSD
from a bad boss.
Yeah.
Post team stress disorder.
Yeah. Post team stress disorder.
Now, their number 3 is my number 1,
Mhm.
and that is the chirping of the smoke detector.
Yeah,
battery.
seriously.
That dry. I mean, we had the smoke detectors put in. They're supposed to be wired to each other.
Yeah.
You know, so one goes off, they all go off.
Yeah, same.
And the guy put them in. He's like, "Oh, it's a lithium battery. It's going to last you 10 years." Within like 4 months, it starts chirping. And I could not.
Oh, you couldn't find which one?
Get the thing to figure out which one was setting off. So I just took
Changed all of them.
Took them. Well, I took it down.
Oh yeah,
I took one of them down because then I got the new battery and it wouldn't recognize it.
Oh yeah, you have
I'm
to
like, you know what?
reset.
Am I going to risk my
connections
entire
and all that.
family's life in a fire, or am I going to listen to the chirping? We're going to take our chances with the fire. Let's see here. Microwaves to keep beeping after you've opened the door.
Oh, I don't
guess
have
you
one of
gotta
those.
close the door to get it stuff.
That's
We've got a refrigerator that yells at us
Oh, little warning sound.
if
It's
we
like,
keep the
if you
thing open too
leave it
long.
open too long. Yeah.
So I just, at one point, I yelled at the refrigerator as though it were conscious. And I'm like, I'm unloading groceries. Shut up.
Shut up.
I'm like, oh, this is an inanimate object.
Hey,
Sorry.
remember when cars would say things like "the door is ajar"?
Yeah, that's right.
In the 90s.
Yeah, thanks, Kit.
Yeah.
Number 1, styrofoam rubbing on styrofoam.
I mean, I get it. I just, I don't know. It doesn't sound that bad to me. It sounds weird. It makes my head itch.
Yeah. No, the smoke detector.
The smoke detector
battery,
one is
that's
number
the
one.
worst for
That's
me.
number
That's
one.
Awful. I hate that.
Chicken jockey.
Jamie Allman here with the Allman Report. Pleased to be with Jordan Rosenblum. Google the bagel loan. That's what it's all about. Jordan, tell me about purchasing a home, brother.
Purchasing a home right now, it's a tough market. You're going to see a lot of competition. On the bagel loan that we have, you're going to have no closing costs, no title fees, no appraisal fees, no lender fees. Saves an average client almost $4,000 on a transaction. Customer service, unbelievable. Text, call anytime.
As I know, as a real estate agent, Google the bagel loan. Google the bagel loan, folks.
NMLS number 226715.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
I'm Rich Thomason. Elon Musk, President Trump's point man on combating government waste, fraud, and abuse, is leaving the administration.
The billionaire entrepreneur posted about his decision on his social media website, X. He said that as his scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end, he'd like to thank President Donald Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. Musk's departure comes one day after he criticized the centerpiece of Trump's legislative agenda, saying he was disappointed by what the president calls his big, beautiful bill. I'm Haya Pinchwani.
In a revised estimate, the government says the U.S. economy, as measured by the gross domestic product, shrank 0.2% in the first quarter. The Transportation Secretary warns that technical and staffing issues at a major New York area airport could surface elsewhere.
The radar outages that disrupted flights at Newark Airport last month, which were captured in this live ATC.net air traffic controller transmission,
Scope shift went black again.
could repeat at other airports, says Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who is trying to sell Congress on his plan to overhaul the nation's air traffic control system that comes with a price tag in the billions.
We are going to, in essence, gut the air traffic control system and build it brand new, everything.
Duffy also says Newark has a new fiber line and they are training more air traffic controllers, so the number of flights leaving can be bumped up from 28 an hour. I'm Julie Walker.
U.S. Court of International Trade has ruled against President Trump's tariffs. The White House appealing the court's finding that Mr. Trump overstepped his authority, the White House suggesting that the court overstep its bounds. On Wall Street, ahead of this morning's opening bell, stock futures are higher. Dow futures up 71 points. NASDAQ futures ahead 266. More on these stories, townhall.com.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
The American flag.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Hi, I'm Helene Tobler, culinary nutritionist at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Here we do practical wellness. Dr. Randy and I have a common sense approach to healthcare. My passion is helping our members enjoy better nutrition because food is medicine. We approach problems with a lifestyle foundation and cutting-edge medical tool chest. At Body of Health, it's about being your healthiest you. If you want to experience healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Mike Ferguson.
It's a miracle we're not in prison.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
Are you kidding me?
Get up, St. Louis.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
All right, you're seeing the big news here. Are President Trump's tariffs suddenly off the table? Big court ruling is a massive setback to, I would say, a huge part of his administration because he's using these in order to get other things in his agenda. So we'll talk about that here. The National Guard has arrived in the city. No, it is not a bad thing. I'll tell you why here in just a second. And, just ahead here as well, that Epstein case, the Epstein file, what is going on with the effort to get that information out transparently? Because you know what? Now it's our team who's in charge and has access to those. So where's the information? That's all part of the news dump here. It is coming up on 8:06. Correction, it is 8:06. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by The Nutrition Shop. The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, President Trump's tariffs policy suffers a big legal setback. Here's the story.
A federal trade court has blocked the president from imposing sweeping tariffs on imports under an emergency powers law. The White House has argued that trade deficits amount to a national emergency. The ruling from a 3-judge panel at the New York-based Court of International Trade came after several lawsuits argued Donald Trump has exceeded his authority. The Trump administration has filed an appeal. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All right, so we'll see where this goes, but as of right now, the president's not able to threaten another country with, I'm going to add 75% tariff. I'm going to add 45% tariff. You're doing what I want. Okay, we're going to eliminate your tariff. So, now he may be able to eliminate tariffs. Maybe, I don't know, but it looks like what's happening here is that the court has ruled constitutionally, Congress must be the ones imposing the tariffs. And so the big deal is has been President Trump's leverage. He took care of the biggest issues that got him elected. The border, which he took care of in literally like 3 days,
like instantly.
Yeah. And then, this aspect of using the tariffs for trade. So if this ruling stands, and what's different here is that this is not a district court. This is a federal court set up for this purpose to deal with anything related to international trade.
This is their jurisdiction.
This is the jurisdiction. So if this stands, if the U.S. Supreme Court or whoever else does not overturn it, basically it takes the biggest tool out of President Trump's toolbox.
Right. That's right. We were discussing earlier about the carrot and stick method of negotiation, and the tariffs have been the stick, and he's been waving it pretty liberally at a lot of different countries. So what is he going to do now? How are you going to bring these nations to the table? Now, I guess we have to go back to the old way of doing it, where he will threaten to recommend tariffs to Congress, and it will be up to Congress to pass it. And it's still a threat to these nations, but it's certainly not the imminent threat that he's made the various ones. It's not happening on Tuesday.
Yeah, the markets reacted very positively to the court ruling.
Yeah, because it does add or it does lessen the volatility
Yes.
of markets,
Yes.
because you stretch the timeline out and you can kind of make your adjustments.
Yep.
But we'll see what the administration has. They have a lot of adjustment to do in their tactics,
because you've got the discussion over the tariff rates and the impositions, and then of course he's backed off on many of these after threatening or wanting to impose them. But then you've got the biggest, and what this court's dealing with is, where does the actual authority lie? Where It's a constitutional question,
right?
More so than it is a tax rate and tariff rate question.
Yeah. And also the idea that you can't give away your authority.
Yeah.
Even through legislation, Congress can't make a law that says, okay, I want a bureaucrat to do this.
Right. All right. Let's see here. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Vegas on Wednesday. The vice president said he's excited for the future of cryptocurrency in the U.S., saying, and these are his words, that there's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring innovation to the country via crypto.
If we fail to create regulatory clarity now, we risk chasing this $3 trillion industry offshore in search of a friendlier jurisdiction, and President Trump is going to fight to make sure that does not happen.
Okay, so fascinating approach there. So far, what I've seen from the Trump administration, and I am not an expert on the actual cryptocurrency, but I do understand the massive, massive future that it has. So far, it looks like the Trump administration's approach to crypto is, let's set up the regulations in order to keep government's hands off as much as possible, as opposed to the Biden administration, who kind of took an anti-crypto approach and wanted to sort of mire it down in as much red tape as possible. Trump's got a much, much, much more sane and sound approach to that.
Yeah, and I'm hoping the administration kind of comes through. I'm hoping Congress comes through,
right, yep,
essentially with some common sense laws to create that framework of protections around cryptocurrencies.
Yep. All right. Let's see here. The National Guard has arrived in North City. 41 Guard members are on a 2-week deployment. Their focus is going to be setting up and operating debris collection sites after the tornado. The Guard is also going to operate a transport operation to get the debris away from those affected neighborhoods. Current plan is for that project to last through June 11th. This is one of those where there was a little bit of criticism. Why hasn't the governor sent in the National Guard right away? I don't necessarily know that they are crucial and that they're needed here, but they're going to be a massive asset. It's going to be a big help. So I don't think the National Guard was required for the emergency aspect of it.
Right.
But boy, helping with this part of the mission is going to save a lot of money for the local community. Because otherwise, you know what, you're calling around and contracting with those to haul it off, and it's going to cost you money. Whereas at this point, it's the National Guard. I mean, obviously taxpayers are paying for it across the state, but this is a disaster relief, and you can't really start rebuilding or recovering until you clean up all those trees and bricks and everything that's out there.
Right. And what the National Guard is really good at doing is bringing a lot of hands and a lot of logistical capability to bear.
And a lot of heavy
equipment. To these sorts of situations. So I'm glad they're being used.
Yeah, I think it's a good move.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think it's
absolutely.
very good. And I actually think that waiting, several days or a week was actually probably the smartest thing to do. So I know there was like the do something governor. And I think the governor wisely saw, okay, I can send in the trucks now, but they're just going to be in the way of the emergency people there.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not privy to that discussion, but I think his timing was actually very good on this.
Yeah. Generally speaking, the first thing you need to do is secure the people.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't take the National Guard.
Right.
Actually, National Guard will be an impediment to that.
Yeah.
Right now, they're saying, okay, now we got a lot of stuff in the way.
Right.
That's where the National Guard comes in.
So I think that's a good move here. All right. The House Oversight Committee is preparing subpoenas for several members of the Biden administration. They are investigating former President Joe Biden's administration for use of the auto pen. Notice that I didn't say former President Joe Biden. They're looking into that, but they're also looking into, did the auto pen with his signature get used at the instruction of somebody who was not elected, president? They're alleging that a group of staffers, group of aides and whoever else, took advantage of President Biden's declining mental state. House Oversight Committee Chairman, Kentucky Congressman James Comer, was on Hannity last night saying, you know what? The former president didn't even sign his final actions in office.
There was more activity in the last 100 days of the Biden administration than the first 3.5 years of the Biden administration.
Among those who are going to be subpoenaed and brought in to testify will be former White House physician Kevin O'Connor. If they find what they believe they're going to find, what they're accusing the Biden staffers of, essentially using the auto pen to make policy and make presidential decisions, if they're able to show that was done without Joe Biden being the one who did it, or understood what was going on, or was in and out of lucidity, or whatever it is, we are talking about what could be described as a coup d'etat.
Yes.
Nonviolent, white collar coup d'etat, if that's what happened.
This is, I'm surprised at how little the media and maybe even society at large seems to care about this story, because it's kind of disturbing, honestly, because it feels, is it that we've had so many biggest political news stories, scandals in history, that now the biggest political news story just kind of falls by the way.
Another one.
It's just another one.
Yeah.
Is that not sad?
You know what's weird is that there was a little comedy skit that was part of the script writing of the show The West Wing years and years and years ago, where they actually made a wisecrack about this exact thing.
Really?
Yeah, where the chief of staff was Leo McGarry, that's the character's name, and his secretary was named Margaret, and the president was in the hospital, and Margaret goes, "I can sign his name. I've been practicing. I've got his signature down."
Whoa.
And the chief of staff is like, "You can sign the president's signature on a document removing him from power." And she's like, "Yep." She's like, "Or would the council think that's a bad idea?" And he goes, "The council would probably say that's a coup d'etat."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then he's like, "Why are you doing that?" And she's
Oh
like,
my
"Well, it's
gosh.
just for fun." I mean, it was a funny little thing, but
Wow.
I'm like, "Oh my goodness." They previewed that.
This is real.
The way that, The Simpsons and the Family Guy, previewed stuff years and years ahead. All right. I tell you, we're getting around to 8:20. I want to play a soundbite from Kash Patel about the whole Epstein files thing, because I'm also surprised that the intensity of frustration with not getting all that information has not held up.
Yeah.
I think our side might be guilty of some tribalism here. Let's talk about that right around 8:20.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This is News Talk STL.
Hey, Tony Colombo here, inviting you to the Bluff City Outdoors Show Fishing Pentathlon, a one-of-a-kind multi-species fishing tournament Sunday, June 8th at Carlisle Lake. There'll be several side pods, but to win, your team has to catch all 5 species of fish with the highest total weight. This unique tournament gives fishermen of all levels a chance to walk away a winner. Get more info and reserve your spot now by going to BluffCityOutdoors.com and searching tournament entry, or just go to the events tab on the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page. The Fishing Pentathlon.
Brought to you by Great Harvest Bread Company in Maplewood and Intervine flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and more at intervine.com.
All right. I am one of those who's really careful what I put into my body. I don't need government to do it for me. I'm very careful. The guys here will attest to the fact that I eat healthy food as often as I can. Not saying I don't go do a cheat meal every once in a while, but I make sure that I am not putting those chemicals that I don't want in my body, those dyes, anything like that, which is why I get so many of my groceries at Nutrition Stop. Mike Ferguson here for Nutrition Stop. NutritionStop.com is the website, but go give them a visit. They're on Mexico Road in St. Peters, just a little bit off I-70 and Cave Springs Road. You really can't miss them. I'm there every week. That's where I get my bison. That's where I get my elk. That's where I get my rice. That's where I get those things. They also have a great line of nutritional supplements and even all natural skincare products. And also they've got clean, non-toxic products that can clean your counters, clean your bathroom, and do it without all the chemicals that you don't want around your pets or don't want around your kids. So give them a visit today. Go out and visit them. The actual address itself is just off of Mexico Road, 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peters. NutritionStop.com for kind of a preview what they've got, but they've also got a lot of great activities. For instance, your parents or your grandparents, or they may want to do some chair yoga. They may want to learn how to do some of these things to keep you in a healthy lifestyle, because that's what Nutrition Stop sells. They sell the expertise, and they sell also that knowledge base, because they are passionate. They are professionals who work in the health and nutrition industry, and they want you to be healthier. So check them out, nutritionstop.com. And if you go up there on a Friday or a Saturday midday, you may run into me. I am up there at least once a week, because that is where I get the proteins and I get a bunch of the vegetables for my meals. Nutrition Stop, nutritionstop.com, 4101 Mexico Road.
This is the story of the one. He's responsible for keeping a leading healthcare facility clean and safe. And he trusts Grainger's high-quality HVAC cleaning and safety products, combined with their world-class supply chain, to consistently deliver, ensuring he's covered inside and out, so he can focus on keeping his facility clean to help protect the health of everyone inside. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places you can't control. Between payroll, your home office, your tax preparer, and the IRS, if your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I thought this was interesting. It came across the news wires, and I want to get to this Epstein thing here in just a second. I thought the guidelines were much longer than this, but officially, United Airlines is now asking passengers to make sure that you're checked in for your flight at least 45 minutes before takeoff.
That makes sense.
Now let's check off it like at the counter, like you're there, you're checked in kind of thing, which means obviously you need to arrive earlier than that to get through your, molestation by the TSA. The guidelines before, and this is what surprised me, Jerome, is that the guideline before was 30 minutes. So be checked in by 30 minutes. I always thought it was like an hour to an hour and a half before.
That seems to be what I was under the impression of as well.
Right.
You get there probably a whole day ahead of schedule to make sure you get, to a flight that's been delayed,
Yeah. So most people still get to the airport. If I'm flying, especially domestically, I am going to get there more than an hour ahead, and it's not even the airlines that are the problem. It's the TSA that's so inefficient and arbitrary and security theater. And that's what wastes the time. But they're saying get to the gate with 45 minutes to spare for whatever reason.
Yeah. And I'm used to the O'Hare. So it's like you have to fight traffic on top of all that.
O'Hare's a mess. Yeah. Man, that's a mess. I mean, Midway isn't fantastic, but O'Hare is a complete and utter mess. Okay. So I wanted to mention this here as well, because I think this is just like, as an observer, guys, this has been interesting to see how people's tones have changed on this. The Trump administration, of course, they were very big on we're going to expose the Epstein files. There's going to be transparency. We're going to do that. That's something that I think the MAGA movement has been demanding. I think it's something conservatives have been demanding.
Yes.
And so this obviously in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, who died in 2019. Of course, and in the MAGA movement and in much of the conservative movement, the assumption is he didn't kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bigger part of a cover up. And now you've got the Trump administration saying, no, he killed himself. Okay, so you've got that going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino a week or two ago, I think it's been interesting to see how so many people who were up in arms and ready to, be activist over this suddenly went, well, okay, I guess if my guy says it is true, then it must be true. Or at least I'm not going to push as hard if I'm pushing against my side, even if you don't really believe it.
Well, I'm not sure of the believe it part,
Right.
But I guess part of the thing is, who do you trust? I mean, that goes a long way.
Yes.
It's just like, I don't know if you're saying it, if it's true, but I trust that
Yeah,
guy.
see, that's the thing is a lot of what Kash Patel is saying. Like, for instance, he was on special report on Fox News last night and was asked about this, and he's saying a lot of the same stuff that we heard under the previous administration, like this.
We are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up.
Okay, so that's a logical thing for him to say, except what's happening is there were some big promises made, and now that you're in power, there's really been nothing delivered, and what we're told is, well, trust us, we'll get to it. It's just going to take a long time. Whereas even after the inauguration, there were some big promises, this is going to be released right away, and it's not.
Yeah, and Corporal Being says, I think what a lot of us are saying is that this is damaging the credibility in a lot of people's eyes of both Dan Bongino and Kash Patel.
Right.
And the motto I grew up with is, don't talk about it, be about it. You can show us better than you can tell us. So if you said, hey, here's a big spectacle a couple months ago, and we're going to release all the stuff, nothing further happens. Now you're saying, well, just trust us, and here's what's going on. It's going to be really, it's kind of like if you're an absent parent and you keep telling your kid that you're going to show up and you just never do. Why would we have that faith in you?
Yeah, I mean, when it started with the, okay, Epstein actually did kill himself thing, I kind of said, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's very much it's like, it's not I trust you. It's a, okay, I guess I trust you kind of response. And with this though, it's like, I don't believe that.
Right.
I don't, because here's the problem, and we've been saying this since the beginning of this whole saga. When Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, she was convicted of a crime. The crime was human trafficking. The human trafficking in question was basically, to put in simple terms, the selling of young girls to rich, powerful people, right? If you are convicted of the selling, who were the buyers? Right. This isn't just randomly you're a drug dealer and you just sell to the public.
Right.
That's not the thing. There were clients. This was an organized operation, so there probably was a client list. There were probably pictures and videos correlating with the financial documents and the testimony of the victims. All of those things would point to individuals. That shouldn't be difficult to find because we already adjudicated it. That's the problem. Right. It's not as though, we got to search through documents, we got to find this, and we got to do this, and we got to correlate. It's like, no. By convicting Ghislaine Maxwell, you're telling us you already did this. Somebody already did this. Compiling the list should be easy.
Yeah, and there was I believe that there was stonewalling at the FBI. I believe when they said,
sure,
I believe that.
I can buy that. I can buy the bureaucratic infrastructure was against all that. Yeah. I can get that. I can get behind that.
But now it's the files are on our desk. We have it, but we haven't had time to go through all of it. Well, you've got a team of hundreds, if not thousands, of employees. So the longer and I didn't make the Epstein thing a real big topic on the show over the years.
Sure.
I'm keeping an eye on it, obviously, because I just said, okay, when we get the final result, then we'll address it instead of do all the speculation. But it's leading me to speculate. And among my speculations, I'm thinking, okay, somebody's got the list. They've got those names.
They know some names.
My speculation is one or more of the names on that list is really inconvenient for the people in power right now.
Right.
But you say that, and then you got, no, our side would never do that. Really?
Yeah,
really?
And it depends on what inconvenient means. And that's the thing that we were kind of discussing in the breaks. Like, inconvenient could be somebody you know and like, where somebody in an important position is on the list.
It could be a political thing, like, oh my goodness, this person's going to damage everything we're trying to do in politics.
And it could also be, now we got goods on somebody,
right?
That maybe an international somebody, and we need that leverage right now.
So, and I've not yet been able to verify this, but I have seen on social media some reports coming out that part of the reason why they've been delaying the release is because it could damage foreign relations with different nations. And I mean, as we all know, Prince Andrew doesn't sweat, so nothing to see there. But that's what's concerning about me is not only do you have some of the sickest, most disgusting people potentially is still in high positions of authority over us. But if it's let's say it's not a domestic thing, maybe Epstein was working with another, to do like a honeypot and get some blackmail to make sure that we always have some sort of loyalty. I'm willing to say just pull the curtain back and expose it, and whatever happens, because it's just a powder keg at this point.
Right. But keep in mind, the same establishment, that same administrative state, that same swamp, whatever you want to call it, that stopped most of Elon Musk's momentum is the same one that is probably standing in between us and the truth.
That's true. That's true. Now, and then the question then remains is, are our people, the Patels and Bonginos of the world, getting essentially stonewalled by those people, by that infrastructure? Or are they getting absorbed by it?
Right. And I would hope that they would not. I mean, I've only had a few conversations with Dan Bongino. I don't know him, but he never struck me as a guy who would cave in and compromise on that. I don't know much about Kash Patel at all. I'm agnostic on him, but I've been a big fan of Dan Bongino, and I've been really disappointed to see them going, we're going to tell the truth and show all of you. Well, okay,
maybe later.
Yeah. Allison makes a point that I think is a very scary thing to think about, but it's maybe there are so many people on that list that it would shut the government down, meaning within our current Congress, Senate, etc.
Wow, just in terms of numbers.
Did she mean shutting down the government would be bad?
Hey, I think you might be onto something.
Did the libertarian in me just come out again?
Wait a minute. It's like just make sure they pass our tax cuts first.
That's right.
And then shut it down.
That's right.
Like maybe that's it. Maybe that's what they're holding off on. It's like we got to get this vote through.
But I'm
and
saying
then we'll blow it up.
Is that if you were passionate about this for the right reasons and want the transparency for the right reasons and want the answers for the right reasons when Biden was in power, you should be just as passionate when Trump is in power.
Absolutely.
I don't think that should not be a controversial thing to say.
Shouldn't be a part of it.
Yep. All right. Our very own, it's weird to say, our very own JC Corcoran going to be with us here in just a couple of minutes. You're thinking JC Corcoran on News Talk STL? Yep. The St. Louis legend got a new show right here on our little old radio station. He's going to be in studio with me just ahead here on 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast this morning, starting with a little less cloud cover, but I quickly expect things to cloud over by the mid-morning as showers get a little bit closer. And we're going to be looking at some scattered rain into the afternoon, and some showers are expected for that evening commute. With all of this rain, temperatures holding a little bit lower in the upper 60s for today's high. Rainfall accumulations around 1/4 inch. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Fox News commentary.
The WNBA did an investigation into racism allegations, and the findings will shock you. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
If you need to hire, you know it takes time. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. You simply pick a time and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day.
Try Zip Intro for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow.
Growing evidence to suggest the WNBA may be racist, but not in the way Angel Reese claims. Earlier this month, Reese claimed Indiana Fever fans made racist remarks towards her during the game her team ended up losing to Caitlin Clark and the Fever. The WNBA launched an investigation and came up with no evidence to suggest those racist remarks ever occurred. If the WNBA really wanted to investigate racism in the league, they could do so pretty easily in the case of Brittany Griner, who was seen mouthing what appeared to be a remark about white girl Caitlin Clark after Griner fouled out of a recent game. All this to say the WNBA is probably racist, but against white people. And perhaps so are the so-called sports media journalists who perpetuate false narratives and race-hustling schemes for attention. The WNBA is a joke. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
You know, one of the favorite things that Rachel and I have done over the years is just kind of take walks through some of the nicer neighborhoods around the area. You could go to Ladue, you could go to Clayton, you can go to parts of Creve Coeur, you can go, a lot of them, and you see the great landscaping. You see that, especially that brickwork and some of the, not just retaining walls, but the garden walls and the way it accents your home and it just makes your home look beautiful. Probably drives up the value as well. Where a lot of those folks got their bricks and got their expertise out of Lee May Concrete Block Company right here in St. Louis. They've been supplying St. Louis since 1947. Mike Ferguson here for Lee May Block. LeeMayBlock.com. Check them out. Just go to LeeMayBlock.com, or when you're ready to go look at retaining walls, when you're ready to go look at maybe that ready mix concrete to put that patio or that gazebo up, go to the experts who have been taking care of St. Louis for over 60 years, going on about 70 years. Lee May Concrete Block Company. Just type that right into your maps, Lee May Block, and they will take you right there. I mean, they can show you how to put the work in to build that retaining wall. They've got the Verti block. They can have you, they can show you the equipment and the blocks that you need for those garden walls, for those freestanding walls. Whether you need ready mix concrete or the precast concrete, they've got it all. You come in with an idea, they're going to show you how to put it together so you can build that. Also, those outdoor kits, I love those things. You get out there on the patio, you've got the outdoor fireplace, you've got whatever it is that you need that adds so much life to your home, because that's what your home is supposed to do, is be where you live your life and do it beautifully and do it in a way that is strong and enhances everything else. And you're going to get that value at Lee May Concrete Block Company right here in St. Louis. So check them out today. LeeMayBlock.com is where you get more information, or give them a call, 314-638-9940. Even if you just have questions and you need to get started, they will tell you how to do that. LeeMayBlock.com. Tell them that Mike was talking about them on the radio.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Hi, this is St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder reminding you to check out my new show this weekend,
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
That's me. Every Sunday evening at 5, we will explore with you behind-the-scenes stories and information that you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, we talk to decision makers and influencers that have impact on what's going on in St. Louis County and beyond.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
I'll talk to you Sunday night at 5, only on News Talk STL.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, who you got in 2028?
That's a good question. I'm going to say Vermin Supreme for the president, and then his boot for the vice president.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Or maybe Vermin Supreme is the boot. I don't know.
So I found this on Twitter, and it was Mark Levin, actually, where you can see him every weekend on Fox News, and he published, he basically retweeted an article from AOL that was talking about the likely contenders for 2028. Now, there's the media people who say, we know who the big contenders are. And then there's the actual political process and campaign process that's been in the works for a long time. So who do you want to see run? 314-912-1019. By the way, tomorrow, Flashback Friday. This has been a short week, so I think a lot of people forgot about it. But they need to everybody needs to get your requests in today if you want to have a chance to get your song on the 80s bump music for tomorrow.
And now Jay Monty's been on a quest to stump you,
Oh,
and
yeah,
he
yeah,
still
yeah.
does not consider last week because it was a deep cut as legitimate. So help me out here, people. Let's help Monty. Let's get some 80s radio hits to stump Mike with.
Yeah, or MTV hits or whatever the case is.
Yeah, your
So,
favorite
yeah.
cassette B-side. You know.
That's right. Excuse me. All right. It is 8:38. So this article that was it was AOL, which I'm like, who still reads AOL.com?
I'm actually surprised that they are still. I mean, I
didn't
probably have a
even-
bunch
yeah.
of those little internet CDs from the
That's right.
laying around, but what does they even do anymore?
I don't know. Does anybody still have an AOL email address?
Wow.
I mean, if you see an at AOL.com, you know that they're like 80 years old. Just you know that. And you know, some of the names you would not be surprised to see. You know, obviously JD Vance, the vice president, is in that mix.
I think he's probably the favorite right now on the right.
And he's definitely the favorite in the MAGA part of the right. But MAGA is not the entire right. I mean, you have the conservative movement. You've got the
America First.
You've got all of these different elements of it. You know, I don't think you can count out Ron DeSantis as well. You know, as Gabe was saying a little bit earlier, I think for a true conservative, it would be hard to argue that there's been a better governor than Ron DeSantis in the last, couple of decades.
Now, the thing that when I'm trying to consider who to pick is that I don't want it to be something where we're picking somebody just to keep out the craziest person the left is going to run.
Right.
But at the same time, with the way Congress has been behaving, it's almost like it's its own gang at this point. So is it in the best interest to have somebody that's going to stand up to Congress, kind of what a lot of people look at Trump is doing, or should we be picking somebody that has the best shot of playing nice with Congress, even though loony, tribalist, cultist leftists?
Well, that's all part of what you're voting for. Let's see here. Blue Train Bebop says JD Vance and Marco Rubio. I'm seeing Rubio show up on a few of these as well. We've had other people on Rumble at least say, let's see here. Somebody, Corporeal Being, actually said DeSantis and Josh Hawley. I think that would be an interesting one. It would be interesting. Josh Hawley, when he's questioning one of these crazy leftists, I don't know that there's anybody better. You've got Josh Hawley and you've got Ted Cruz and you've got, some of these others that are just solid on that. Josh Hawley has moved in a very, very populist, non-conservative direction over the last couple of years. He's not the same conservative he used to be. I mean, there are times where he writes or says something and I'm thinking, if you just read the words, you wouldn't know whether Josh Hawley said it or whether Bernie Sanders said it. That's how much he's I think moved in that sort of populist direction. So I think there are more and more conservatives they like him, but I think they're leery of him, as well, just to see which direction he's going. I mean, he's in his second term. He's got time. So we'll see where he goes on there. But, when you look at the possible candidates or nominees out there, you've got the big names. But then you look at okay, let's look at the people who ran this last time around that people really, liked. Tim Scott. I like Tim Scott. I've always enjoyed his books. I've appreciated his writing. I've been reading his stuff for a long time. You've also, I think Nikki Haley's out of the picture. I think she was
the never Trumper pick that leftists wanted to get installed. I don't think she really has done very much in the political landscape since the election that would really even put her back in the spotlight. Yeah, I think she, and the thing is, here's what I don't like about some of the ways these things played out is there were people who were angry that somebody was running against Donald Trump. Even if you are the most animated Trump supporter, there's nothing wrong with other people running and giving an alternative or giving another voice or giving another choice. There's nothing wrong with that. And there never was, but you actually saw, some people, and I saw it almost overnight right in front of my eyes. Yeah, I really like Governor Ron DeSantis. Oh, he's announcing he's running. I can't stand that establishment shill. Wait a minute. Yesterday you liked him. Well, that was before he was going to be competing with Donald Trump.
And so let's be better than that. If we want the best candidate, then let's put all of them out there and force all of them to prove themselves to us instead of us trying to prove ourselves to them.
So you probably are not going to approve of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Sarah Palin running on a ticket together.
No. I do think Sarah Palin, while she made a bunch of missteps, I think she was unfairly maligned in a lot of ways. She was actually a decent governor of Alaska. She's kind of a punchline now. Of course, she's faded into obscurity now. I wish Marjorie Taylor Greene would fade into obscurity right away. I am not a fan of hers whatsoever. Her part of her state of Georgia will elect somebody very, very conservative. But, I get it. Right now, people really want the flamethrowers and they want the influencers. They want the social media. I'm going to own the libs kind of stuff. That's what's in favor right now. And she fits the bill and she's attractive. I get it. I don't think she's particularly smart, to be real honest. She may be right on some issues. I think she's wrong on some others. I just don't think she's very smart.
Well, we did have a good, a fair chunk of our stream commenters saying that they would vote for Gabe. So we just have to find a way.
Yes.
We'll install Gabe as the reluctant dictator,
yes.
the uninterested, benevolent emperor. And then he'll just say, nope, we're going to Mars.
He's the dictator who will lay down the arms once all of the problems have been fixed.
Yes,
exactly. Because the Democrats, it's kind of funny. Cory Booker now, they're announcing he's got a book that's called Stand that's going to be coming out later this year. And the media is like foaming over this. They desperately want anybody who's going to be marketable to that middle, and they're going to promote. I'm telling you, when this book comes out, I don't know that anybody's going to actually buy it, but he's going to have a media campaign and he's going to have a media love affair like you don't see very often. I mean, it's kind of funny because like Jake Tapper came out with his book and the media tried to play it up and the whole country was like, no, we watched you before. We know you're full of crap. With Cory Booker, they're really going to try to promote him as like, a real, alternative. The media wants somebody to be taken seriously as the alternative to whomever is the successor to Donald Trump with the GOP. And their bench just isn't very marketable. J.B. Pritzker and Gavin Newsom are Marxists. I mean, they are so out of touch, and especially when you go back to their records, not just over the COVID tyranny, but also the whole sexual identity nonsense and the brutality with which they've treated their own people. They're just not marketable outside of blue states.
Mm-hmm.
So the media is looking for that golden child, that golden boy, that golden girl who can be held up as here's the future. By the way, they're a Democrat and Republicans are evil again.
Yeah, Ellison says Ted Nugent for president. So maybe Ted Nugent and Mel Gibson. Maybe that's
how about Ted Nugent for Secretary of Defense? You know what? Because he will take up the arms. He's probably got the arms already in his house. Ted, man, what a character that guy is. All right, 314-912-1019. This is 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
with cookies and dog poop
on News Talk STL.
Springtime in St. Louis means one thing. That's right. Golf is back, baby. Sugar Creek Golf Course is located in High Ridge, just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. To book your tee time or to learn more about the special event and banquet facilities, simply visit sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
We are kicking off June with a very special series dedicated to home ownership and the home build process. So tune in this Sunday. We've got special guest Jim Britton with McKelvey Homes talking about the quality and craftsmanship they've been building right here in the St. Louis area since 1898. Check it out right here on News Talk STL Sunday morning, 9 a.m. or on SerenityWealthNowRadio.com.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
As Israel continues to hammer Hamas, will Trump bring peace to the Middle East? Steve Bucci of the Heritage Foundation will join us at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Weekdays at 4
on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning, people.
You saw the media is trying to make a real big deal. Elon Musk is leaving the Trump administration.
Yeah, he's just so mad and overwhelmed, and he's quitting and he's throwing tantrums, right? Just like the media says, right?
No, that's not what's happening.
No, it's coming to an end like we knew it was going to come to an end.
Yeah, I mean, well, a little bit earlier than originally planned. But it was always supposed to be temporary.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and it is interesting, and I do think we are wise to listen to some of the things that he's saying as he leaves. Now, I'm one of those who believes. I don't believe that Doge is going to be as effective without Elon Musk actually there running it day to day.
Yeah.
I think the whole concept of why Doge presented so much promise is because Elon Musk's of his personality, of frankly, his quirks, the good and the bad. There's big thinking and then there's massive big thinking the way that Elon Musk does. And so I think that, I think he definitely was the right personality, if you will, to lead this sort of effort, because Doge comes up with the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Congress still has to cut the spending, and to this point, they have not really taken that as seriously as they should. But boy, did they want to campaign on it. I mean, boy, did they want the photo ops, but boy, do they want the media hits. Boy, did they want the coattails of it. But when someone says, all right, let's put it all into a bill and actually do it, there are some that are being filed and there's some in the so-called big, beautiful bill, but nowhere near. And Elon Musk has said very explicitly, he's really disappointed. He's really, he really thinks that the spending bill that was sent to the Senate undermines a lot of what Doge does. And it was a lot of talk and not a lot of action, or at least not as much action as there should be. And I think his criticisms are fair.
Yeah, no, if I was in that situation and put up with everything that he's had to put up with from the crazy hands-off people, and then putting all the work and effort into finding the people and following through and going through however many countless of records just to have it turn out this way, I can understand very much the disappointment. But to the point I think you were making earlier is that the way the media is phrasing this is very much as if he's taking his Legos and going home, rather than just saying, well, we've already accomplished what we were supposed to accomplish. It's near the end, the deadline anyways, and I've got rockets to launch and cars to make.
Yeah, I've got internet satellites to put up, in space and sell. You've got Tesla, you've got SpaceX, you've got I'm brain farting on this satellite internet.
Starlink.
Yeah, you've got all of those things that are, especially Starlink in particular, is changing the world.
Oh yes.
Not necessarily in the US, but around the world, it is giving access that we never thought possible. I mean, third world countries that cannot afford to run cables or set up satellite. I mean, people are able to access the world because of his entrepreneurialism on this. So, he's got, he's going back to the private sector to do what he does. And the left losing their mind over Elon Musk says everything about the left and doesn't say as much about Elon Musk. Doesn't really say anything about him. But at the same time, I mean, he's quirky. He's got, some things in his personality that I'm like, you should work on that. You should assess that. You should,
he's got a touch of the tism. Yeah.
He definitely has that. And that's not a character flaw. Because, some people who have that, I think, he's been open about that. Saying I'm bored, I'm going to go impregnate another 20 something. That's a character flaw. It is. But, you look at what he's accomplished from a business perspective and a policy perspective, and you can't deny that.
To be fair, being one of Elon Musk's baby mamas is like a winning lottery ticket.
It is.
Just saying.
Yeah,
but
it is.
But absolutely. I mean, there are things when you are on the spectrum that are going to change some of your behaviorisms and mannerisms, and that could definitely lead to butting heads with people. So, I mean, I've done tutoring for special needs individuals, and but that being said, again, you have people that are comparing Musk and by extension Trump, of course, but for some reason Musk specifically to some of the worst historical people, and it's just like he's going through and finding that your money that you worked for that was taken from you by the government is being used on things that is absolutely either overfunded, wasteful, should have never been, like things you would never vote to willingly give your money for.
Right.
Why are you mad at him and not the people that are doing that to you?
Right. Yeah. And so he's walking away, and the media framing is that he's stomping off and he's feuding with Donald Trump. And I don't see any evidence. I mean, he is frustrated. He said he's frustrated, but I don't see that there's been a breakdown between him and Trump or anybody. He needs to go back to running his businesses. His businesses need him. He's done his job. He has exposed the really crappy things that could be addressed if Congress had the guts and the backbone to follow through and do it. Elon Musk was never empowered to cut the spending himself. He doesn't have that authority. He never did. Yeah, he was a consultant. And Congress must now actually do the hard work and telling that representative from whatever district in whatever state, I know that you like this project in your district, but it has to go because it's not necessary.
Yeah.
That's the hard work of politics. And the people who are elected are the ones we expect to do that. And they just, in all candor, don't want to do it on this. They are doing hard work on other things, but they don't want to do the hard work on this.
Which, to some degree, again, my tinfoil brain, sometimes I feel like that might be an indicator of how deep the swamp goes when it comes to why would somebody that's their whole campaign platform right now not be in favor of solidifying it. Now, I guess the other question is, do you expect to see Elon Musk with AOC and Bernie Sanders on the anti-oligarchy tour? Probably not. I mean, it is frustrating. And if I did all that work just for it to say, well, we say this, but really, you're not one of us. So
give me credit for saying I tried.
Yeah, like that. I would be very disheartened by that. And I would say, well, I can do whatever I want. I mean, he's the richest man in the world. He can do whatever he wants. I'm going to go build an Iron Man suit and you guys can take care of the government now. How about that? I would totally, but I don't think that's an indicator that now suddenly he's going to switch sides and
I don't think and you can be frustrated with Congress, but to follow up something you just said, I think you're right about this, is that establishment, and I mentioned earlier, you call it the swamp, call it the deep state, call it the administrative state, once you get into that Washington bubble, it's a whole different world, survival of your job and self-protection, as opposed to, I want to do what's right for the people. It affects people there. And so I think that he just got a lesson, and by extension, the rest of us got a lesson in how deep that establishment goes. Because one of the things that we got, so we weren't super hopeful that the Department of Public Affairs division of this could save $50 million. I mean, yes, but what we were excited about is somebody's willing to take on that corruption and that system and win. And now I think we're finding out just how entrenched that is, and it's discouraging.
Yeah, we know from some of the even our state representatives that we've had in here that we have an issue with this exact thing happening in our own state. I can only imagine how much worse it gets once you get to the federal level.
Oh, right. Precisely. All right. Vic Porcelli coming your way here in about 6 minutes on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Attention St. Charles, looking for a local spot that satisfies all your cravings.